become unbearable.
They are selling expiring food for our children. Our children are dying every day. Today and every day, their children are dying because of their food. So they must go. We don't need you anymore. And then they are selling drugs. So the government failed us, ANC. The government of ANC failed us. Ramaphosa failed us because he wants these people to vote for him. So we don't want them.
Yeah, even the states yesterday they said
The World Health Organization says another case of hantavirus has been confirmed, bringing the total to 3 confirmed cases and 5 suspected. Earlier, the Swiss government announced that a man is in hospital with the virus after previously traveling on the MV Hondias ship. The WHO says the passenger had responded to an email from the ship's operator informing them of the health event and presented himself to a hospital in Switzerland. The ship, currently off Cape Verde, is sailing to the Canary Islands after Spain gave it permission to dock, but the island's president says he won't allow it to enter. Recapping the top story, evidence before the Madlanga Commission has revealed that there were 7 break-ins at the Hogspot Shepstone premises between 2011 and October 2021. I'm Mondela Mana for SFM News Headlines at 1:30.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
When you listen to me, I feel important. When you hug me, I feel safe. When you talk with me, I learn.
Your love and attention helps your child grow strong and confident. Listen, comfort, and connect with him because every child deserves to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
It is Msaki coming through with this one is Infama Zabona, and that is how we open up the show today. It's a beautiful song, Limfama Ziabona, and it comes from the album How the Water Moves. And this particular record was released back in 2016. In fact, that's how I first crossed paths with Msaki back then. And round about that time, she wasn't signed to any major, still functioning very much as a independent artist, publishing and releasing her own work before she found mainstream. But she'd been writing music and performing music for many years before then. It's 10 past 1 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, and a hearty good afternoon to you on this very chilly Wednesday from outside in Johannesburg. I don't know what the weather is doing where you are. But definitely serving up at the cold this side. And it's also very deceptive because, at first glance, you just see a beautiful day outside. The sun is shining. It's beautifully crystal clear for as far as the eye can see. And then you go outside and you are greeted by the bitterly cold wind. So we will endeavor to warm up the environment wherever you might be. We're going to be reflecting on day 102 at the Madlanga Commission, which began with quite a bit of commotion today, and we'll find out from Uspatle Mota what was happening with that emergency alarm. And then we go back into moments in time. 2026 would have been Solomon T. Plaatje's 150th birthday. So we'll reflect on his life, on his contribution and the legacy that he leaves behind with Dr. Leslie Mofokeng, who's a lecturer at the Wits Center for Journalism, as well as a published author who focused his thesis very much on Solomon Plaatje's, as well as Dr. Tebe Ikalafeng, who was recently conferred as the Chancellor of Saul Plaatje's University. Also coming up on the show today after 2 o'clock, we are focusing on how do we plan for and negotiate and lower bond repayments with less interest. I know with the petrol fuel hikes that have taken place, the most recent one being, of course, yesterday, a lot of folks are trying to tighten up the belts as far as we possibly can. Are we able at this point to negotiate with banks? Are they open to such conversations when it's likely that 10 out of 10 of their clients are looking to negotiate? I don't know. This is why we'll have the conversation. And speaking of the fuel hike, what is the true cost of the latest fuel hike on South Africans' livelihoods? What is the cost of living and the emotional well-being for you and your family and the sacrifices that you've had to make? We are chatting with Debt Rescue South Africa around that. A quick pause and then we come back with Spatle Mota.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Tweet at SAFM Radio and at Bridget Masinga.
All right, let us reflect on day 102 at the Madlanga Commission, starting off with a bit of a bang this morning. Spatle Mota, our SABC News reporter, live in the building. And Spatle, you will clue us in as to what caused all the fanfare and pandemonium this morning. How are you?
Good afternoon to you, Bridget, and to the listeners, and thank you so much for having me.
So what was the cause of the emergency alarms that went off at Madlanga Commission this morning?
I mean, it seems like it was just a technical sort of glitch that actually occurred, because if you remember, I don't normally go into the Madlanga Commission as early as my TV colleagues. I get there just before, the commission actually starts. But what I did get off is the fact that there may have been some technical glitch which sort of set this fire alarm off. But luckily, no injuries were reported, and it was business as usual at the Madlanga Commission.
Okay. Well, since it's business as usual, let's get on with the business of the day. Of course, it's day 2 of Major General Hendrik Flynn still testifying about the theft of drugs. Talk to us about what's happened this morning. In fact, there was quite a lengthy sort of discussion around, or exploration around, what seemed to be how the chain of custody for seized goods and evidence logging actually works as it pertained to Potchefstroom. And why is this Potchefstroom police station at the center of this testimony?
So I think what I need to also clarify that it's not even a police station, which is one red flag, right? So these are goods, or rather the cocaine that was stolen from this Hawks premises in Potchefstroom was, I think, worth 200 million rands and weighed an estimated total of 241 kilograms. So what we are finding from the testimony of Major General Hendrik Flynn is that proper processes were not followed, to sort of register this cocaine when it was moved from ECP to go to the Hawks' offices or premises in Potchefstroom. And what, the law, or actually processes by the SAPS dictate, is that every item that is seized needs to go into a SAPS 13 register. And this was done when the drugs were brought from the harbor to Isipingo police station. But surprisingly, this was not done at Potchefstroom. And mind you, Potchefstroom was not a police station. It was just Hawks premises. So what we are finding is that these goods, or the consignment rather, was only registered 2 days later, which then leaves, like a 2-day gap for anything to happen to them. And what we are also finding is that, there was talk of these drugs getting tested at the forensic science lab. And what, protocol dictates is that when they are taken to the forensic science lab, you can't take 2 or 3 of those bricks that have cocaine inside, but you need to take the whole consignment, which then they will open and actually test. And then after that, it actually gets destroyed. But what we are finding through evidence from the Madlanga Commission is that there were claims that 7 bricks from that consignment would be taken to the, forensic science lab for testing. And since then, we don't even know what happened to those bricks. So we are seeing, so many steps or protocols were broken by this process. And one person's name keeps coming up, and that is the name of General Liseja Sinona. As you know, he was the one who made the recommendations for these drugs to be taken to Potchefstroom, despite the fact that there had been over 10, break-ins, 7 rather break-ins over a 10-year period. Potchefstroom didn't have any security. It didn't have any cameras. And General Liseja Sinona had actually motivated for them to go there, citing that Isipingo police station actually didn't have space when it did actually have space. So we are seeing this process that was flawed. And one of the people who seems to be behind this process was General Liseja Sinona.
I mean, it gets so much more complicated with the Madlanga Commission, because it almost seems as though this spiderweb, a lot of people on social media have been asking for a mind map, because there's so many cases that are interlinked and interconnected, from province to province, that it's hard to sort of really get to the crux of what is the center of it all and who are the masterminds behind it all. We're on day 102, and it seems as though we are no closer to actually unveiling who exactly is pulling all the different strings, in the SAPS.
No, definitely. But I think what we can go on by the evidence that has been produced is the fact that there are drug cartels, that may have been involved. They are all obviously assisted by top-ranking police officials. And at the time this consignment was stolen, General Liseja Sinona was already the Hawks head, and he was the one who even had the keys for the premises to Potchefstroom. So what we are finding is the fact that, it seems like police top police officials rather, also are sort of aiding and abating this sort of behavior, to steal things that they're not supposed to be stealing. So I think what we are uncovering here, Bridget, is just the role that Brigadier, or rather General Lisekela Sinono, may have played in the disappearance of these drugs from Port Shepstone.
Today, it's anticipated that it's going to be General Flynn's final day of testimony, and then after which we're expecting a new witness to take the stand. But this witness is applied to testify in camera. Is this still the witness that we were dealing with yesterday, day before, Witness G?
So what we are finding is that the witness, so it's not Witness G. So this witness that is meant to be testifying in camera this week, which is Friday, that application will be heard before they take to the stand. But what Advocate Mahlape Silo had made clear is that they are reluctant to have their testimony in open public. So if then the Matlanga Commission should rule that, their testimony must be heard in public, then they may pull out. But we are expecting another, witness again tomorrow who will speak into the issue of Port Shepstone and also just give their part and what they have observed from that break-in. So we still have another day to have, testimony from witnesses, but we'll only hear on Friday if this witness, who's not witness, she will actually testify in partial camera should the Matlanga Commission rule that, they can't hold his testimony or her testimony behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've reached that point, and you and I had this conversation very on at the Matlanga Commission. I think at the first sort of application of testifying in camera, where we said we're going to reach a point where we're going to have to invest all our trust in the commissioners, where we will not be part of the process and cannot be part of the process because of sensitivity, because of the threats, because of the ongoing matters. And so we just have to trust in the fact that where we are not included to be a part of the process still continues at the same level at which we'd come to expect.
No, definitely. And I think, the Commission has definitely shown to us that they do try to have the public's interest in mind in conducting their investigations. And we saw with Witness G, right, where they had, had planned that their testimony would be heard in partial camera, but due to other circumstances and the fact that Witness G had actually feared for her life and other factors, we saw that they had to fully go into camera. So I think we definitely do need to put our trust in the Commission and just hope for the best, that they do indeed have our best interests at heart.
Absolutely. Spahle Mota, I appreciate the time. SABC News reporter giving us the rundown on the Matlanga Commission for day 102. It's gone 20 past 1 o'clock. A quick pause, and then we come back on the other side and we get into moments in time. And this year, 2026, would have been Solomon T. Plaatje's 150th birthday. So we reflect back on his life, on his legacy, and of course his contribution towards liberating the Black child.
Is your business struggling with cash flow, job losses, or low productivity? You're not alone. Productivity SA's Business Turnaround and Recovery Program provides expert turnaround strategies to restructure operations, save jobs, and boost growth. Get practical tools like early warning systems, performance improvement plans, and access to productivity champions. Visit productivitysa.co.za or call 011-848-5318 to apply now. Your recovery starts here.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
This May, SAFM invites you to be exposed and engaged in a different conversation. Not the Africa you think you know, but the Africa that surrounds you. What does it mean to be African today? In our politics, in our economies, in our cross-border movements, in our rich cultures, in our evolving identities. Every day we traverse this continent. 54 countries, 54 unique stories, one shared future. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, and right here at home. Because South Africa is not separate from Africa. It is a vital part of it. SAFM Africa Month. Conversations, context, connection. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All right, it is Moments in Time, and this year would have marked Solomon T. Plaatje's 150th birthday. And so we thought, let's have a conversation with Dr. Leslie Mofokeng, who is a lecturer at the Wits Center for Journalism, as well as the author of The Man Who Shook Mountains in the Footsteps of My Ancestors. Also, by the way, a real doctor of PhD, having focused his thesis on Sol T. Plaatje to the history of journalism in South Africa. We'll also be joined in a few moments by Dr. Thebe Kalafeng, who was recently conferred as the Chancellor of Sol Plaatje's University and Chairman of Brand Africa. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, Bridge.
It's so interesting, but this is not about us because I've known Leslie for probably 20 years since I've been in media.
A lifetime.
And many, many years ago, he used to be the one asking me questions, and now the tables have turned. I love it for us.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this great individual, Solomon T. Plaatje's. Firstly, let's begin with who was the man, because way before we coined the term a multifaceted individual, multi-hyphenated, he was one of those persons.
Absolutely, Bridge. And good afternoon to your listeners. What a joy to be here at SAFM and to talk about Solomon Plaatje, because it probably is one of my most favorite topics. I spent 4 years of my life working on my PhD on Solomon Plaatje. So it's about time that I share what I have found in my studies. So yes, Solomon Plaatje was ahead of his time, and I actually don't even think we have enough time to cover just the depth of Solomon Plaatje and what he has done. This is a man who had Standard 3, went to a mission school in a place called Neil, which is just outside Kimberley, and with his Standard 3, he managed to work his way up. He joined something called the Self-Improvement Association, which was in Kimberley, of young black Africans who were determined to move up the ladder, the social ladder, and they recognized the importance of speaking English, of understanding the language and using it as a tool to advance in life. And then from there, he worked in the post office in Kimberley, and then from there moved to Mafikeng, where he worked as a court interpreter. It was during that time as a court interpreter that the South African War broke out. Some people call it the Boer War or the Anglo-Boer War, but the correct term should be South African War. And Sol Plaatje played a major part in that. I hope I'll get time to explain what I mean by that. Anyway, he wrote this diary that was never published. And then he moved on to become a journalist. Worked with Chief Silas Molema to start a newspaper called Kuranta ya Batswana. A few years later, 9 years later, the Kuranta collapsed. He moved back to Kimberley to start Tsala ya Batswana, and then later Tsala ya Batho. In between all of that, he was elected as the first corresponding secretary, what we call general secretary, of what has now become known as the ANC. At that time, it was the SANNC. And then from there, he then traveled to England with a deputation to ask the king and obviously the colonial authorities, the imperial government, to intervene in the Land Act of 1913 that was taking land from black people. 1914 he was there. 1916 he published a book called Native Life in South Africa. And then while he was there, he also published Setswana proverbs and their European equivalents, which is a collection of Setswana proverbs, and something called Setswana Reader, where he was really studying the phonetics of the language. and then came back to South Africa in about 1918, 1919, 1920, back on the road again, back to England. Didn't stay for long. Organized a passport for himself to go to the United States. Colonial South Africa would not offer him a passport, so he ended up having a Canadian passport that got him to Toronto, into the States, met W.E.B. Du Bois, met Marcus Garvey, and activated and went on this talking circuit where he was making people aware of what was happening in South Africa. And around that time, he also translated Shakespeare plays from English to Setswana.
Let's hold it at that point, because clearly there's a lot of
more,
life.
But I'm towards the end. Because he wrote that important book called Muhudi.
Hold on, an important book called Muhudi, Leslie. We're going to take the headline news and then we'll come back on the other side and continue with Moments in Time.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, evidence before the Madlanga Commission has revealed that there were 7 break-ins at the Hogsport Shapston premises between 2011 and October 2021. The South African Weather Services says the low weather system over the Garden Route and Little Karoo region is moving rapidly towards the eastern region, and German police have raided the homes of more than 35 people suspected of involvement in far-right criminal groups. No arrests have been made yet. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Right, we are back in conversation with Leslie Mofokeng, and we are in Moments in Time reflecting on Solomon T. Blakey, who would have turned 150 this year. So you were giving us the background to this phenomenal individual.
Yes, the lay of the land. So he then wrote, in 1920, Muhudi. That was never published until 1930. And it became the first long-form English or full-length English novel written by a black South African. That has been one of his claims to fame. And then in between that, he worked for a newspaper called Our Heritage, which was for the Templars Association, and also wrote a lot of opinion pieces and just journalism of that time for The Star, Diamond Fields Advertiser, Pretoria News, all of those. So he returned to journalism after all of the activities that he did, and being an agent of change, especially for the language of Setswana. He really did a lot of work for the language. So Blakey died in 1932 when he was just 56, out here in Pimville in Soweto. And then his body was transported from Park Station here in Johannesburg to Kimberley, where he is buried at West End Cemetery. He died in 1932, which is almost 100 years ago. He was 56. And this year, yes, we mark this milestone of 150 years of his birth. And we are still learning Sol Blakey. This is, I think, the beauty and the tragedy of it at the same time, that someone who has lived that much, or who has left that much for us as a people, we're still understanding him and learning him. For example, my thesis was the first one to actually study his journalism and get to grips with what he was writing about, what were the issues that he was addressing, the kind of language he used. It's multi-layered. But yes, I'm delighted that South Africa is waking up to this great man in the year that we celebrate his 150th.
I mean, for you, having been a person also who's very much immersed in journalism, in the world of literature, arts, entertainment, academia, I can almost see what the appeal was, but to hear it from your lips perhaps will be better as to what was the attraction to delve deep into the works of Solomon.
So Solomon Blakey, I grew up during the Bantustan days of Bophuthatswana. So our education was a little different to what we know as Bantu education. Solomon Blakey was part of my primary school syllabus. So we were just introduced to the man. So the name existed in our memories as children growing up in the Bantustan. So that stuck with me for the longest of time until in 2018 when Professor Brian Whelan published the definitive biography that I just bought. And then I went to Wits to do my master's, and then after my master's, I stayed on for the PhD. My original topic for PhD was on COVID-19 until I attended a webinar where they were discussing this great man And overnight, I changed my topic to study Sol Plaatje, because I always had the desire to want to know more about Sol Plaatje and what he's done, and I felt like he was understudied. So I think it was hand to glove. I think it was meant to be. It was my destiny. Because in the webinar, they said at the end of this webinar, this presentation that was hosted by Sabata Mpomokai, another authority on Solomon Plaatje, as well as Brian Whelan, they said we need somebody who can read Setswana, who's fluent in Setswana, to actually study Solomon Plaatje's journalism. All eyes were on me in that meeting because I am fluent in Setswana. I actually studied Setswana. And then reading the newspapers, I realized that it's actually even not just Setswana, but it's a Serolong dialect that's spoken in Mafikeng and Tabanchu areas. More than just Setswana that you'd find, let's say, in Rustenburg, which is then
Educate us who are not familiar.
Which is then Sekhatla, because in Rustenburg they use a lot of F, so it's Sefofani, Fetafa. When you get to Mafikeng, they use a lot of H instead of F. That's why it's Mahikeng instead of Mafikeng. That's why it's Sehohane, Seahoha. That's just a taste of Serolong, the difference between the dialects. And it's actually something that comes up in the thesis, the fact that he had to balance these allegiances, because it's not just the dialect. It also spills out into who's your chieftainship, and also who belongs to who. So some people complain, well, this is a Serolong paper. I'm a Mokhatla, I can't read this, or I don't really fully understand what he's saying. But those are topics for that day, for that time. It's very interesting when we start talking about the language and the choices that he made. He was a Morolong. What could he have done? He went with what he knew. Not that he excluded other languages, by the way. Towards the end of his journalism career as an editor, he published in isiXhosa, Tsala ya Batho, in 1912, introduced isiXhosa as an offering. So in the end, you have these three languages, Setswana, English, and isiXhosa, sitting side by side, convening this really integrated black public sphere that was in conversation about the future of the land in which they didn't have any say at that time, the colonial dispensation.
So I'm then interested, Les, I mean, for someone who had such a great presence in steering conversation at that time, amongst us, the Bantus, as we were referred to.
Well, natives.
How does that voice become then lost in later years?
It's interesting, the erasure that happens, because when he died in 1932, reports always say that was one of the biggest funerals that Kimberley had seen. Over 1,000 people. I mean, some of the pallbearers were white people at the time. And in fact, even the cemetery where he was buried, or he is buried, was a white cemetery. I don't know how he managed to maneuver whoever organized the burial. But I mean, that tells you of the profile of this man, that he was really respected. This is the first General Secretary of the ANC. This is an agent and an advocate for the Setswana language. He ended up at University College of London, worked with the professors of phonetics and language to preserve Setswana. So this was somebody who transcended national borders, who transcended a lot of boundaries. So the fact that after his death, there was this quietness and erasure is an interesting aspect that I actually don't have answers for. But what I know is that after he died in 1932, 1960s, towards the end of the 1960s, Professor John Komarov was studying the Barolong people in Stateng, which is in Mafikeng. And during his studies, he asked for whatever people had in their houses, whatever bags, written documents, whatever they had. This now takes us back to what I said earlier on, that during the South African War, he wrote a diary. It was only discovered in 1969, published for the first time in 1973 as the Mafikeng Diary of Sol Plaatje. And that diary changed the narrative of the so-called Anglo-South African War. That is why it's so important. And that is why we have to read it as black people, because I think as black people we forget or we don't know our place in the South African War. But when you talk to white people, when you talk to Afrikaner people, they will tell you stories of the war, about concentration camps, what happened to them, the scorched earth policy, and how they emerged out of that to form Union in 1910. But what about the black experience? That history is lost from 1901 probably up to the 1930s. That portion of history is not spoken about a lot, but it's written there. We find that in Sol Plaatje's newspapers and his contemporaries such as John Langalibalele Dube, who had edited Ilanga Lase Natal. There's also Dr. Walter Khubusana, as well as A.K. Soga, who edited Izwi Labantu. There's also Imvo Zabantsundu of John Tengo Jabavu, who is the grandfather of Noni Jabavu, that a lot of people might relate to, who follow this kind of history. But I personally think that this must be general interest news, general interest discussion. It must not be only in the ivory towers of academia, within a certain section of the population. This must be everyday conversations, because they will awake the greatness in us. We will realize where we come from and the people that walk this road before us and the lessons that they have learned. There's so much that I have discovered on Sol Plaatje's journalism alone, but there's so much more we can talk about in terms of the social history that's contained in the newspapers and to understand our place in society.
Absolutely. As the conversation continues here with Dr. Leslie Mofokeng, we're going to be joined in a moment by Dr. Tebe Ikalafeng. Let's take a quick commercial break. It's just gone 2 o'clock, and then we'll be right back.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Joined by Owutle and Gwenya's father, Aubrey. It's a really fantastic story. I mean, he's still only 14 years of age, and the adjustment, being born in South Africa, being born in Kempton Park on the East Rand, and then going across, as you say, going to Germany, now based in the Netherlands.
Definitely, Michael. I think, as you know, football is a universal language. As long as you are able to play as a team, not as an individual, it actually makes it easier, and it's easier to make friends. The Netherlands system it was weird in the beginning, but when we started knowing it and understanding it, it was very good, because when we came in here, we thought we can get trials and go to big clubs, but the KNVB, which is the association, they tell that if you are a foreigner, obviously we were this side because we are an expert, my wife and I, so we got a job. When we come this side, it makes it easier if you are here working.
Top Sport on SAFM. Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
My brothers and sisters, stand up and sing. Eduardo Montani is not gone. Frelimo, your eternal flame has shown us the light of dawn. Mozambique, a luta continua, continua. In Zimbabwe, mama, a luta continua,
Miriam Makeba, Mom, Miriam Makeba coming through with Aluta Continua, and we don't play the song Jasinje off the cuff. A very purposeful selection to this, as chosen by Dr. Leslie Mofokeng, who's our guest this afternoon for Moments in Time, reflecting back on the life, the legacy of Solomon T. Blakey. And of course, joining us now is Dr. Tebe Ikalafeng. And before maybe, I don't know which one of you I ask, about the significance of the song. Good afternoon, Tebe. How are you?
Very good. And how are you?
Do we have Tebe on the line?
Yes, we do.
Tebe?
How are you? I am. Can you hear me?
There you are. There you are. There you are. Leslie, I think you might want to put on those headphones. Hopefully, it's the ones that I plugged in. I think it's the ones that I unplugged. We'll plug them in a moment. Here's Ntosh coming to help you. How are you, Tebe? Are you good?
I'm very good. And yourself? Are you playing wonderful music and you're sitting with an incredible mind there, Dr. Leslie Mofokeng?
Well, listen, he can't hear you because his headphones are offline, but I'll extend the compliments to him indeed. The incredible mind. I mean, let's talk about, and he says you will also get why this particular Miriam Makeba song, Aluta Continua, and how it ties in so beautifully to this conversation around Solomon T. Blakey.
Well, I mean, the struggle continues, isn't it? And I think what he was trying to paint, the picture was painting for you there, is how our stories have not been written. And if you look at even the story of Solomon Blakey himself, the person who's written the most work on Solomon Blakey is not even South African. And Brian William, who wrote probably a 700-page book on autobiography of Solomon Blakey, he's not even South African. And if you go to bookshelves around the continent, our stories are not told by us. So that's why it's refreshing when you have people like like Leslie and like Sabata Mokai and all those, because what that does is it tells the story. It helps you understand why our stories matter.
Absolutely. And
the struggle, and until then, the struggle continues. Aluta continua.
I mean, Leslie wants to jump in on this. Go ahead. I mean, it's a conversation between all of us, Les.
Chancellor, good afternoon. Happy to hear from you. I'm sorry I didn't report to you that I was coming to SAFM. So
imagine, how could you come and talk about the namesake of our university? You don't even talk to me. Leslie, you need to be called into order.
Apologies, Chancellor. I just wanted to say, Bridget, that the selection of this song, Aluta Continua, for me, it also represents the Pan-African nature of Solomon Blakey's work. The fact that he actually forged relationships across the diaspora, the black diaspora, the African diaspora, whether it was in England or in the United States, and the networks that he established with W.E.B. Du Bois, and the inspiration that he drew from Booker T. Washington. I know sometimes I'm just dropping these names without context. I apologize. But sometimes if you've got time, just Google some of these names. You'll see the significance of people like Booker T. Washington and their influence on Africans, not just Solomon Blakey, but the fact that John Langalibalele Dube opened that Ohlange school in Inanda, in KZN, was inspired by the work of Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee University, where he actually went to study John Langalibalele Dube. So the point of this is that while we are in the middle of Africa Month, and we celebrate African heroes, Sol Blakey belongs in that pantheon. He's one of those who forged the independence and pride of Africans in themselves, in what they do, in what they're about, at a time when colonial governments were out to really destroy and dismantle anything that was good, that was associated with being an African.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting to also draw those connections, as and I have an affinity for Ohlange High. In fact, we were talking to the headmaster last week around that school, because there's so much rich heritage still to be dissected around that particular institution. And so to draw all of those connections between what was happening in the southernmost tip of Africa and then in the greater context of the continent, but also how it sprawled out to the broader conversation on blackness and black consciousness worldwide. Tebe, you are now, conferred, and I'm sorry I missed the celebrations. I extended my apologies to your PA. We're just all apologizing to Tebe today. When you took up your seat as the Chancellor of Sol Plaatje University, and of course everyone knows you're the Chairman of Brand Africa. For you, the importance perhaps that you hold in terms of the vision that you want to uphold for the institution and the leadership values that you want to pass on to your students and the greater community of Sol Plaatje.
Well, to me, the most important thing, my first agenda for me, is to really center Sol Plaatje, the person, his values, into everything that we do at Sol Plaatje, into the thought leadership, into the culture, into the imagery. He should be part of who we are, because it is somebody that's number two, which is also important. It's somebody who represents the best of us, not as Kimberley, not as Northern Cape, but as Africans, an internationalist, a thought leader, a groundbreaker. And that's what we strive to be as South Africans, as Africans. And that's why it's so important to me that we recenter, we deepen our affinity, association, and ownership of the name Solomon Plaatje as part of the identity of our institution.
How do we, and I was saying to Leslie earlier on in the conversation that it's interesting that an individual who's lived so many lives, a visionary, a renaissance man, without the likes of the Sol Plaatjes, we may not have had the likes of the Thabo Mbekis, for instance, and the vision that they pushed for Africans. But these legacies get lost somewhere in conversation. So how do we ensure that in the next 150, the name Sol Plaatje is not one that purely lives within the campus of university, but is one that actually lives in the expression of the writing of the history of South Africa?
If the Mafeking diaries were not discovered, if Ibrahim didn't write the book, if Sabata didn't write the book, if Leslie Mofokeng didn't write the book, if SOAS didn't return the passport, and many other institutions which have got remnants of the story of Sol Plaatje, if they didn't find the importance of it, we would not, or rather have not curated that or kept that story, we would not even be having this conversation. It is a typical story of the African story. It's a typical narrative of the African story, where much of our history, as Leslie was saying, is not celebrated, because we tend to look down and minimize anything made in Africa. And to me, what this means is what's important about the time now is how we are now finding ourselves. Because you see, when we celebrate, affirm, and identify with a Sol Plaatje, a Thabo Mbeki, and all those, we are deepening our roots. It enables us to have global influence and significance, but rooted in our culture as Africans. So what you say, what's so interesting about Solomon Plaatje as well, is another demonstration that it is not about the education, but it is about the purpose. Remember, this is somebody who only had up to standard 3, but it is somebody whose vision exceeded many people who've got multiple letters behind their names, because purpose and vision does not necessarily revolve around how many degrees and how many relationships and who you're affiliated with, which party he belongs to. It belongs to, because there's only a few significant people in the world, and in Africa and in Kimberley and in South Africa, who actually have been purposeful, have been impactful, have been influential, and have impacted how we as a people identify with ourselves, or rather tell our story. To me, that's the significance of a Solomon Plaatje.
I mean, we have these conversations, I think, on the backdrop of a lot that's happening socially in the country, a lot that's happening politically. Even now, our news channels are on in studio, and there's march on march across the province. In KZN, we saw action in Tembisa this morning, and so forth and so on. So to have these conversations about these revolutionary Africans becomes even more important and more potent at the time. Their values more so in particular, because you'll express that Sol Plaatje, one of the most important things to Sol Plaatje was how he understood the concept of freedom, and that freedom is not the absence of chains. Explain that thinking to us, Les. I mean, what was meant by that?
Well, Bridge, now you remind me of my the article that appeared recently on Freedom, which was inspired by really what you're saying. The fact that the world has not really moved on that much since Solplaki's time, and how he envisioned our freedom to be and to mean. The fact that even today we're still battling with land appropriation. We have all of these debates about land. We have all of these debates about social ills. A lot of conversations this past week I heard were on, for example, alcohol. And I don't know if you know this, but Solplaki was a huge advocate of he stood against alcohol, and he identified it as one of the things that held back black people, and he campaigned against it a lot. But the point that I'm making is that so much more we have not fulfilled the promise of Solplaki and what he was about and what he stood for and what he had hoped for as his descendants. And I know we keep saying Solplaki, but when you look at the general what we call the black press of that time, I mentioned like Imvo Zabantsundu, Izwi Labantu, Ilanga Lasenatal, then came Umteteleli, and all these other newspapers. You get a sense of the vision that they had for South Africa that they never got to see, obviously, because most of them died in the 1930s, 1940s. They never got to see freedom in 1990 or 1994. So if we were to wake them up from their graves, for example, and say, come and see the South Africa that you fought for, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be favorable, a review from them, because so much more still needs to be done. And I think we've become so inward looking that we forget the greater purpose, the greater idea of a community and what, that motuki abatu, umuntu abatu. All of those sayings have become cliches and we just throw them around with no real meaning. But when you understand the commitment that these forebears of ours had towards the greater good, then you will have a better understanding of what we should be doing and where priorities should be.
I want to sneak in one or two voice notes in our last 2 minutes of conversation, and then we'll come back and we'll give the last bite to Dr. Tebe Igalafeng on this, and perhaps to jump off from Leslie's last point around, and it's always an unfair question to ask, Guti, if Saul Blackie had to rise up today on his 150th year, what would he say? But first, let's go to WhatsApp.
Bridget, good afternoon. I'm Tumiso from Waterfall in KZN. Let me just say I'm so enthralled regarding this conversation that you're having right now about the great man Saul Blackie. You know, from the context of the Boer War, I only know it from reading the book. I think it was a biography by Jan Smuts. And now I find that, there's this great man who also wrote a lot of stuff. And to my frustration, just to add on to what the Chancellor was saying, my greatest frustration, I think, with, let me say, the African continent, and specifically South Africa, and our own cultures and traditions, that only so little is written, and it's my greatest frustration and it's my greatest hate. So I need more of these narratives to be written so that I can read them as well and understand better what it really means to be a African. We need these stories. Please, guys, keep it going. Thank you.
Well, this is why we are bringing you Moments in Time, and it's for exactly this reason. So this series is going to be ongoing for the 2026 season of The Full Circle. As we wrap it up, Dr. Tebe Igalafeng, we literally have 40 seconds, and then I have to go into the news.
Well, I think thank you so much for the show today. It's great. What we need to do, we need to take the lessons of Saul Blackie, and today more than ever. And with the things you've spoken about, whether it's the Madlanga or all those, is a demonstration of how a country that is more morally corrupt, what can happen. And Saul Blackie gave it a foundation, and that's why his legacy is enduring. We can learn from that.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your contributions and more particularly for your contributions in ensuring that African history is archived. Dr. Tebe Igalafeng, Chancellor of Saul Blake University and Chairman of Brand Africa. And of course, Dr. Leslie Mufokeng, Lecturer at the Wits Center for Journalism, as well as author of The Man Who Shook Mountains in the Footsteps of My Ancestors. I'll find out from him where his thesis is available, and then we will put up the link so that everyone can go and read it. It is 2 o'clock, time for Ondela and the top of the hour news.
Thank you, Bridget. On the top stories, march against foreign nationals in Durban causes traffic congestion, and Major General Flynn testifies at the Madlanga Commission. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Traffic has come to a standstill in the Durban CBD as hundreds of people take part in demonstration against illegal foreign nationals. The protest is organized by lobby group March and March, cultural activist Nkosikhona Phakelumthakathi Ndabandaba, and former radio personality Ngizwe Mchunu. The march began at King Dinuzulu Park and is expected to conclude along Mahatma Gandhi Road. This area, which hosts a large number of shops owned by foreign nationals, has been cited by the organizers as hotspot for criminal activity. Tembelani Ngubane is one of the participants in the march.
I wish for today's march to be a success, even if they will submit a memorandum of understanding, or even if they don't submit the memorandum. I don't know what difference it will make, but it doesn't help because they take memorandums and they are stored in shelves and the memorandums are never considered. People of South Africa need to understand that the white people that used to own stores in South Africa have retired and some of them have passed on. So now we need to come up with a plan to attract investors that will invest 5 million and above.
Evidence before the Madlanga Commission has revealed that there were 7 break-ins at the Hawks Port Shepstone premises between 2011 and October 2021. Major General Hendrik Flynn confirmed this during his testimony on the November 2021 break-in, which resulted in the theft of 541 kilograms of cocaine. Flynn told evidence leader Advocate Mahlape Silo that the Hawks offices were not a secure location for storing exhibits.
In your experience, how secure would you consider premises that have been broken into that many times over a 10-year period? I can make a call. I don't know if this is highly insecure, medium, or low. What comment would you give to that?
Commissioners, I'm of the view that it's almost not secured. It just shows us that there's a lot of opportunities for prospective housebreakers or burglars to gain access to this premises. So
the South African Weather Services says the low weather system over the Guardian Route and Little Karoo region is moving rapidly towards the eastern region. However, rainfall and wind will still persist. Uniondale in the Langkloof saw over 130 millimeters of rain overnight, while some areas of Knysna received over 120 millimeters of rain. Parts of George also saw rain in excess of 100 millimeters. Eskom is also dealing with power outages in several areas. Disaster Management Head Gerard Otto has urged motorists to still exercise caution on the roads.
Our roads at this point is some of them flooded, some of them is very slippery and inaccessible. Rain will still continue for the remainder of today, but fortunately it looks like the system is moving to the east very rapidly, and from tomorrow it'll start clearing. Still expecting about 30 to 50 millimeters of rain in the eastern parts of the Garden Route district, but clearing soon during the day, and better weather is on its way.
The National E-Hailing Federation of South Africa is calling on government to ensure that e-hailing companies adjust their prices in accordance with the recent fuel price hikes. NAFSA alleges that e-hailing companies have kept their prices unchanged despite the recent fuel price hikes. The petrol price increased by R3.27 per litre, while the diesel price went up by a massive R5.25 a litre. NAFSA National Spokesperson Dila Masakale says the unchanged prices are putting additional pressure on drivers.
The drivers are honestly absorbing majority of the costs. you notice that the fares have not really matched the increase in fuel prices. So we've been really urging these app companies to consider this dynamic pricing model because it's honestly not really as effective or sustainable as they would like to think it is, because you'd find that drivers are actually going home with less profit at the end of the day after expenses.
German police have raided the homes of more than 35 people suspected of involvement in far-right criminal groups. No arrests have been made yet. The BBC's Mimi Swabi has the details.
The operations across about 50 locations involved more than 600 police officers. Federal prosecutors have said the raids targeted people suspected of organising violence through social media and forming nationwide networks. The accused are prominent members of the extremist groups Young and Strong and German Youth Forwards. Some members have reportedly attacked left-wing activists or people they consider to be paedophiles. The youngest suspect is 16 years old.
Recapping the top story, traffic has come to a standstill in the Durban CBD as hundreds of people take part in demonstrations against illegal foreign nationals. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech or violence, explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Outsurance can't improve your parallel parking skills, but they could improve the car insurance premium you currently pay. Get a quote today, and if Outsurance can't save you money on your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get a quote and get savings or cash. Either way, you win. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Zange ndaphinde ndafana Yaba ngomunye umuntu Sungela Zange ndaphinde ndafana Yaba ngomunye umuntu
One of those songs that you find yourself humming along to. Bongiziwe Mabandla coming through with Zange, one of our favorite guests, one of my favorite guests on radio, whether it's here or my previous radio homes, because he just almost always expects that he's going to give an acoustic performance. So whenever he comes to an interview, he always brings his acoustic guitar with him so that he's ready and the voice is warmed up and is ready to do a little impromptu something or the other. It's gotten 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, and we're going to have a conversation now that's focused a little bit more on finances, and we're looking at how to plan for and perhaps negotiate or even lower your bond repayments with less interest. I think it's a conversation that a lot of South African homeowners, at the very least those of us who are still bonded, are entertaining these days, given the financial crunch we are finding ourselves under. We just had the second of those ridiculous fuel hikes yesterday. I don't know about you, but I don't drive a diesel car, so I'm taking the brunt of it all. So we've got Gerald Mwadiambira joining us, certified financial planner and entrepreneur and author, and of course, international speaker as well. It's a good time to have this conversation, Gerald. And normally we have these kinds of conversations, either in January or December. But I think anticipating the kind of year that we might have as South Africans due to those unexpected fuel hikes, it's a better time. It's about as good a time as any to have this conversation.
Indeed, Bridget, good afternoon, and good afternoon to all your listeners. Many South Africans are indeed suffering the consequences of the Iran war, but in general, the cost of living is getting beyond most South Africans. And as you said, when you're looking at where you can cut back, one of the things which most people never ever renegotiate is a bond. And your home loan is just like any other loan. You should shop around and renegotiate as often and frequently as you want. Normally, if you want to lower your home loan interest rate or your repayment, simply go to the bank next door. And normally what they would do is they often will accept you with the caveat that they also want you to move your other financial products to them. So you often move with your current account and your credit card, etc., and you take up a bundled account offering, but it's well worth it if you can save 1,000 or 2,000 rand a month on your home loan.
I mean, when you say that it's as simple as us, initiating a conversation with the bank next door, the competitor next door, a lot of South Africans are reluctant to do even that. So what should we be considering when we go into those conversations? Perhaps what kind of questions should we be asking to ensure that at very least we set ourselves up on the right foot?
Look, it's not even a hard conversation. The biggest profit item for South African banks is home loans. And they like home loans because houses don't move and they don't disappear. And so when you go to the bank next door, they know exactly what they're getting. They're just getting another asset to put on their balance sheet. And often it's as simple as, can you lower my bond repayment? And they will work it out. And they will gladly take the asset off the other bank. And often what they will do is even pay for the transfer costs to their book, because at the end of the day, they know that home loans are sticky. You're a client with them for 20 or 30 years, so they often will take up and poach home loans from rival banks simply because they know that when you are low risk, it's a low risk asset. So banks generally will requote you. Even your own bank, if you don't want to move next door, go back and renegotiate. Or you can even ask the conversation of moving your home loan rate from being a fixed rate to being a rate that is floating, which goes with the interest rate. So there's different ways to skin a cat, but definitely if you haven't at least once renegotiated your home loan, it means that you're losing out on money. Because remember, when you take out your home loan, sometimes you're younger and you're more risky. So it's young Bridget, the one who's on TV and does, the more risky things in life.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you're more conservative. So you are less of a risk now, older, than you were, say, 10, 15 years ago. So it's definitely worth renegotiating your home loan rate.
Okay, I'm putting it on my things to do before May is over because, as you said, if you've never renegotiated or even engaged that conversation, what are you waiting for? Some bells went off in my mind as well. Now, tell me, do things like credit scores, because we were talking about credit scores last week, so do factors like credit scores, equity, your payment history, for instance, do all of those play any kind of role when it comes to renegotiating your home loan?
Well, yes, indeed. Obviously, payment history and your credit score will be looked at, but often the banks want new customers. A house is a sticky asset, as I said, and if you've proven that you can maintain your bond for over 5 years, they will consider you a low risk. And for the sake of stealing a client from their neighbor, most banks will renegotiate because they know that their bread and butter is home loans, and most banks will poach you, even if you've been approved for a bond. That's the best time to shop around because you can actually now go to all the other banks with the knowledge and security that you've already secured a home loan, and all you're going to get is a better deal.
So a lot of people then ask, Gerald, are there any hidden costs to this? Is there any sort of penalties that folks should be on the lookout for?
Well, there won't be any penalties because normally your new bank will absorb the cost of transfer and the legal cost of transferring the assets. So you end up, it's a win-win situation. You're going to end up in a new bank which has offering you a lower rate. And often because they're going to give you a bundled service where they'll probably take your credit card as well as your current account, you might end up in a better situation financially and dealing with a new institution which obviously is going to offer you more goodies as a new client as opposed to being with your bank who've sometimes forgotten about you and are taking you for granted.
Very interesting indeed. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side and we'll continue this conversation. By the way, if you have any question around this conversation, we're talking about planning, negotiating and how that helps to lower your bond repayment and potentially maybe less interest on your end as well. I guess lowering your bond repayment implies that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask Gerald. You can send them to us on 061-410-4107. That is our WhatsApp line.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
You know, some conversations on our show really have me looking at myself and thinking that I could do better. Because as we're in conversation with Gerald Wandiambera now, who's a certified financial planner, and we're talking around refinancing your home and renegotiating your home loan. I'm thinking of myself as just a normal South African. And I think, Gerald, a lot of the time, it's laziness. It's not the lack of information or the lack of awareness. It's just laziness on our part because we think of, oh, it's going to be administratively cumbersome for us to do this. I was just saying to my crew here that about 2 years ago, I started having issues with my own bank. I won't color code them. And the Tree Bank came to me saying, well, we can move you. We can move you and offer you an even better account, a better profile as a client because we believe in you. And we'll handle everything. You just need to sign one piece of paper. And I still have not done anything about it till today. But maybe after our conversation, I'll mobilize something. Let's talk about refinancing, by the way. Is refinancing just a different languaging for what we've been talking about?
Yes, refinancing is simply transferring the loan and changing the terms of the loan.
Okay.
One of the things you must be very careful of is that when you are refinancing your bond, the one thing they're going to discover is that your house value has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So actually you're sitting on equity. Don't fall into the trap of them giving you more money and a lower rate because you're going to end up in a worse off financial situation. Yes, you'll get immediate cash, extra cash, but you've actually gone backwards in that all the value of your home has increased. You've eaten it. So if you are going to refinance, do it specifically with only one reason, which is to lower your repayment. Don't be tempted where they come and say, well, guess what, Bridget, your house is now worth $500,000 more. Why don't we give you an extra 200,000 and you can refurbish the place? Don't fall into that trap. Go into your renegotiation with one outcome, which is to lower your repayment, not to end up with more debt.
Okay. So now when you said earlier, that we can engage this conversation perhaps even at looking at a fixed rate versus a flexible rate. And a lot of people still don't understand the nuance and the difference between the two.
Well, a fixed rate basically is they'll give you a bond rate and you pay that rate for a certain period. It doesn't change regardless of what the repo rate does.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a floating rate, it goes up and down with the repo rate, which most people are on that kind of regime. So a fixed rate is nice to lock into when you know you're at the bottom of the interest rate cycle. Because it means when interest rates are going up, you're enjoying the low rate. But normally they lock you in for at least 5 years and then you review it. But be very careful. Speak to your financial planning professional to understand where the interest rate cycle may be right now before changing from fixed to floating or from floating to fixed. Just understand what the interest rates are doing. There are pros and cons in doing that.
Got you. Someone just messaged us saying, hey, Bridget, so the old bank treat us like old boyfriends, girlfriends, and they take us for granted. I have to switch to LOL. I think a lot of us, often when we have these conversations, really do feel like that. Like you're in that relationship with your old partner where, regardless. You may make the threat because you're listening to Gerald who's I'm gonna do something, but they know that you're probably not gonna do anything.
Well, I think, look, the banks have changed. In the olden days, there was a bank manager.
Yeah.
There was relationships. They knew where you stayed. Your parents probably used the same bank manager, and there was that personnel relationship. It's gone. These days, all of the banks, most of them are just glorified call centers. When you want anything done, you simply a number and a profile. So at the end of the day, stop having this emotive relationship with the bank, because unless you have a private banker and you're really at the top of the game where there's actually someone servicing you individually, move. You know that your bank cares for you when, there's that personal touch. I dare you right now, miss a bond payment and see what they're going to do to you next month. Next month, they won't even treat you nicely. Because even though you've been paying 15 years and you've got that relationship, indeed, it is like those old relationships where they take you for granted. And there's newer guys on the block, newer girls on the block who want to date.
Absolutely.
So shop around, move your. Everyone listening right now, SAFM, call your bank tomorrow. Ask them to lower your home loan rate. If they don't, call the bank next door. Let's do a survey in a month's time. How many people were accepted? 90% of you will have better bonds at lower rates.
I mean, we might just take up that challenge indeed. And whilst we're on the better bonds, lower rates, is it better to extend the bond term to lower our... Okay.
Never. They say they are lowering your repayment, but actually, if you work out, you're going to pay more. It's like saying we're going to lower your repayment, but we're going to increase the amount you owe and the sentence. So I would say don't. That's not a good idea. You should be looking at finishing your bond earlier, so you save on interest. And by paying more than the monthly requirement, you can save yourself more interest than trying to lower your rate and attracting a few more years on your bond.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been an advocate for, sort of making either a lump sum payment or where possible increasing, even just marginally increasing your bond repayment for that exact reason. The long-term effects of it lowering your interest are incredible, even just a marginal increase to your repayment.
Definitely. They say as little as an extra 500, 1,000 rand, you feel it for a few months, but after a few months you get used to it, but it's going to take off years of your repayment. Remember, on every house you buy from a bank in South Africa, you're buying them 2.5 houses.
Yeah.
That's why they like these home loans. And hence, if we become savvy as customers and start challenging the banks, they will start treating us differently in terms of the home loan. So I would say shop around. That if anything today you got this afternoon, call the rival bank. I guarantee you'll probably save 1,000 or 2,000 rand on your repayment because you are much lower risk than you were when you took out that bond. So you have nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of consolidating, can we consolidate other debts collapse them into our home loan?
Yes and no. It's a good idea because if you've got a lot of credit card debt and things like that, and your bank gives you that option to put it into your home loan, it's often a good decision because it's a lower interest rate. However, you need to do it with caution in terms of do it under the guidance of somebody who knows what the numbers are saying. Because simply collapsing all your debt into your home loan can have adverse consequences. And also simply converting your home loan into an access bond can also have adverse consequences. So often people who pay more into their bond say, okay, I'll convert it to an access bond, which means that the extra amount I've paid, when I need it, I can access it. But at the same time, I'm lowering my home loan. But often people take out more than they can access in terms of the value of the property, so they end up eating their house. In the literal sense. So it's a very, very considered, but because your home loan is your biggest debt, you definitely need to use it as your biggest bargaining tool when you're dealing with your bank.
Let's go to WhatsApp quickly before I run out of this minute and get some thoughts from our listeners.
Hi, Bridget and the SAFM. Just listening to your bond savings tips there, I was also I'm not too sure how many people know this, but what you can also do as far as saving money is your vehicle insurance. As each year goes by, obviously your vehicle depreciates in value, so the book value or the replacement value will drop as well. And you can also call your vehicle insurance company and renegotiate your monthly premiums down as the value of your vehicle depreciates. So it's worth a good tip. You can save a few $100 per month there as well. Have a good day.
I did not know this.
Hi, SAFM. That guy over there, like he's missing something, Because like if you change from one bank to another bank, you need to register the bond. And if you register the bond, it can cost you maybe like between 30 to 60,000. Of which that money is gonna put back to your bond, and then the duration of payment of that bond can take very, very long. So sometimes to make a negotiation with the bank, it's not that easy as like he's saying right there on SAFM. No, I do not agree with him that much.
Gerald, I have to go into the news headlines, but in less than a minute, your response.
I disagree with the caller. The bond registration costs are covered by your new bank. They know about it. It won't increase. It won't leave you worse off. And the bank, from a good financial advice point of view, will not make you worse off. They'll take you as a client, but they'll often cover the bond registration and transfer costs.
Awesome. And then that last quick tip about the car.
Definitely. Everything you have, renegotiate. Even your building insurance that's associated with your bond, you can often get a better deal from your normal short-term insurer than just sticking with what they gave you when you took out the house.
Awesome stuff. Gerald, thank you for the time. That was Gerald Mwadimbera, who's a certified financial planner. Ondela is standing by with the news. Ondela was told to pass on the message by one of our listeners. They love how you pronounce millimeters. Ondela Mbana coming through.
Thank you, Bridget. And to the caller on the news headlines, Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to establish a dedicated unit to tackle crime and address the issue of hijacked buildings in the Durban city centre. Hawks head of serious organised crime investigations, Hendrik Flynn, has testified that the Madlanga Commission that suspended KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Lisicha Sinoda should have been subjected to a polygraph test, and the South African Police Service in the Northern Cape is urging residents to take extra precautions on the roads as icy weather conditions set in across parts of the province. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM. This program is brought to you by SABC Education. And if you miss any of our programs, you can catch up anytime on the SABC Plus app or on the SABC Plus website, www.sabcplus.com. Brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, friends, and happy Wednesday. It's time for Kids Corner. Today we're talking about something super important: vegetables. Do you like eating vegetables just as they are, or do you prefer them in fun shapes or mixed into your food? What is your favorite vegetable? Are there any vegetables you don't like? How do you think they could be made more fun to eat? Why do you think it's important for us as children to eat vegetables? How do you think vegetables help your body grow strong and healthy? All right, friends, let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answers with the people next to you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Yaula Mabuya. I am currently doing grade 5 at Mikataka Primary School. I am 10 years old. I prefer eating vegetables mixed into my food. My favorite vegetable is broccoli. I like it because it boosts my immune system. The vegetables I don't like are spinach and cabbage. They could be made more fun to eat by mixing them into your favorite food. I think it's important for children to eat vegetables because it boosts their immune system and makes their bones grow strong. Vegetables can help your body grow strong and healthy because it gives you vitamins and boosts your immune system and make your bones grow stronger. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Akashula Ababalin Ndwasa and I am 10 years old. I am currently doing grade 4 in Mikateka Primary School. Today I will be speaking about vegetables. I like eating vegetables mixed into my food. My favorite vegetable is a carrot. I like carrots because they clean our eyes and give us energy. There's one vegetable that I do not like, broccoli. It could be made more fun to eat by getting fried and being eaten with ranch sauce. I think it's important for children to eat vegetables because it helps them gain energy and strengthens their bones and keeps them healthy and strong. Vegetables help our body grow strong and healthy by giving us vitamins and minerals. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Sitola. I am 12 years old. I'm in grade 7 and I school at Mikateka Primary School. I prefer vegetables into fun shapes. Turning carrots into stars or cucumbers into ribbons can make food feel less like a chore and more like something you want to eat. My favorite vegetable is a carrot. I like carrots because they've got that natural sweetness, so they don't feel boring or bitter like some veggies can. I don't like broccoli because it's bitter and it smells. Yes, broccoli can be cooked more fun, and because I said I prefer them in fun shape, they can also be turned into that. I think it's important for children to eat their vegetables because it helps them grow and feel good day to day and support growth and development. Yes, they do because they are full with vitamins and minerals that help build strong bones, healthy skin, and a good eyesight. Thank you.
Greetings to you all. My name is Anuel Matigane and I am 11 years old. I am currently in grade 6 at Mikateka Primary School. Today I am going to tell you how vegetables helps our bodies to grow strong and healthy. I prefer them mixed into my food. My favorite vegetable is a carrot. I like it because it helps our vision. Yes. They could be made more fun to eat by cutting them in fun shapes and mixed into my food. It is important for children to eat vegetables because vegetables are healthy and they prevent us from sicknesses.
Good day, everyone. My name is Namfuna. I am 12 years old and I'm currently in grade 7 at Mikateka Primary School. I prefer eating vegetables when they are added into my food. My favorite vegetable is carrots because it is good for the eye and I have an eye condition. A vegetable I don't like is onion, and if there was any way to make it more fun or easy to eat, it will be when it is added to a soup or it is fried. I think it is important for children to eat vegetables because it helps us grow stronger, healthier, and stay active. Vegetables help grow strong and healthy by providing it with essential vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber.
Good day, everyone. My name is Nompumola Nsizio. I am 12 years old. I am in grade 7. My school name is Nikateka Primary School. I like eating vegetables mixed into my food. My favorite vegetable is carrots. I like carrots because of their natural sweetness. They are crunchy, they work in both salads, and they are also good for your eyes. Vegetable that I don't like is broccoli. We can make them fun to eat by frying them. Children need vegetables to grow properly and stay healthy. Vegetables give them vitamins, minerals, and energy to concentrate at school and to build a strong immune system so they don't get sick easily. Vegetables give your body vitamins like vitamin C for healing sickness and vitamin A for good vision. Minerals like iron and calcium help with strong bones and help you grow. Thank you. Hi, my name is Bususu. My surname is Patlane and I am 11 years old. I am a learner at Mikateka Primary School in grade 6. I like eating just as they are and fun shapes cause fun shapes are great for making kids eat them. Just as they are best when they are fresh. My favorite is broccoli and cabbage, which have vitamin C that supports immune system and help detox. I like it because they have vitamin C packed with fiber and stuff that helps your body. They could be made more fun to eat if you roast instead of boil. Turn them into fun shapes, add flavor and crunch, hide them in stuff you already love. It is important because kids are literally building their bodies and brains. Vegetables are one of the main building materials, for example, growth and development, gut health and habits, energy and focus, long-term protection. They protect while eating. They support the brain. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. It's always great to hear from you. And to our friends listening, I hope you shared your answers with the people next to you. Vegetables are an important part of a healthy diet, but not everyone enjoys eating them in the same way, and that's okay. Some children like vegetables just as they are, while others prefer them cut into fun shapes, mixed into meals, or cooked in creative ways. Making food look colorful and exciting can make a big difference in how enjoyable it feels to eat. Everyone has a favorite vegetable. It could be something like carrots, spinach, broccoli, or sweet corn. Some children like vegetables that are sweet, crunchy, or colorful, while others may not enjoy certain vegetables because of their taste or texture. If there are vegetables you don't like, they can often be made more fun by adding them to dishes like pasta, soup, stew, or smoothies, or by cutting them into fun shapes or serving them with dips. Eating vegetables is very important for us as children because they provide essential vitamins and nutrients that help the body grow and stay healthy. Vegetables help to build strong bones, improve eyesight, boost the immune system, and give us live. Vegetables don't have to be boring. With a little creativity, they can be fun, tasty, and enjoyable. Eating them regularly helps you grow into a healthy, strong, and energetic person ready to take on each day. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
If you miss any of our programs, you can catch up anytime on the SABC Plus app or on the SABC Plus website, www.sabcplus.com. Brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives. This May, SAFM invites you to be exposed and engaged in a different conversation. Not the Africa you think you know, but the Africa that surrounds you. What does it mean to be African today? In our politics, in our economies, in our cross-border movements, in our rich cultures, in our evolving identities. Every day we traverse this continent. 54 countries, 54 unique stories, one shared future. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, and right here at home. Because South Africa is not separate from Africa. It is a vital part of it. SAFM Africa Month. Conversations, context, connection.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Joined by Owutle and Gwenya's father, Aubrey. It's a really fantastic story. I mean, he's still only 14 years of age, and the adjustment, being born in South Africa, being born in Kempton Park on the East Rand, and then going across, as you say, going to Germany, now based in the Netherlands.
Definitely, Michael. I think, as you know, football is a universal language. As long as you are able to play as a team, not as an individual, it actually makes it easier. And it's easier to make friends. The Netherlands system it was weird in the beginning, but when we started knowing it and understanding it, it was very good because when we came in here, we thought we can get trials and go to big clubs, but the KNVB, which is the association, they tell that if you are a foreigner, obviously we were this side because we are an expat, my wife and I, so we got a job. When we come this side, it makes it easier if you are here working.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle. Made in SA with Bridget Masinga.
All right, ahead of Mother's Day 2026, which is this Sunday, we thought we'd catch up with Uzipho Zethu Buthelezi, who's the founder of Handsome Florist, and you can find them on Instagram. It is Mother's Day, Sunday come the 10th of May, and we know that flowers are often the great and first gift for any mom. And today we thought we'd have this quick conversation, give you some ideas, perhaps. Zipho Zethu, how are you doing?
Hello, hi Bridget. I hope you are well. Hello, listeners as well.
I'm great. I cannot complain at all. Firstly, I've got to understand the inspiration behind the name of the business, the Handsome Florist. Tell me, how did we get to that?
To tell the honest truth, I never came up with the name. It was well fitting though with the description of the person behind the brand, which is myself. Handsome Florist actually started online, and then we actually were fortunate to grow the business into a physical store. We are based in Bryanston. right next to the restaurant called Gemelli. But our address is 13 Post House and Post House Streets by Bryanston, but we are available online and in store.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about your journey to being a florist. You are obviously an entrepreneur, born in Ulundi in KZN, and you studied business management and entrepreneurship before you graduated with a degree in digital marketing from Wits University. I mean, all pretty much useful qualifications in the business that you find yourself in. But how do you then pivot towards this creative, this creative avenue?
It started during COVID in the year 2020. A former friend of mine actually came up with the idea due to the fact that I have green fingers. I was very more in touch when it comes to plants, taking them from the soil, planting them, putting in pot plants and putting them in the household as well when I was using to decorate the house. And from there, everything just started moving in a different direction to actually going into flowers, understanding flowers, putting them together, and then actually being gifted to having people who actually help me also keep the store with our offerings.
I mean, interesting. So did you always know that you had this sort of flair for the florals? Was it a passion thing that you indulged in on the side, and perhaps to the benefit of your partners and the women in your life, siblings, aunts, moms, and such figures?
Definitely. So when it comes to my mother, she was the one when I was growing up, especially in primary school, who always actually used to buy flowers typically on a Friday afternoon and have them around the house. So I think it was there, but I didn't actually know it was my calling. I knew I was going to go into business, especially in the entrepreneurial route. And then as soon as things just progressed, COVID hit. Unfortunately, the job that I was gunning for was in the event sector, which actually closed down, and then this door actually opened. So I just feel as if my calling was always going to go into business, and I never actually thought it was going to land here. And those are the conversations, even with my mother, sometimes we joke about, where she said she couldn't have foreseen that me being a part of this industry was actually what was going to be the most fruitful thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the happy coincidence is the most successful of them all. What does it mean to build a business as a modern florist and to create a brand? Because people are about brands these days, even in, the type of business and the nature of business you are in. Somebody probably goes, I want a handsome florist bouquet.
That's a good question. I'll definitely say that another day to try again is definitely the motto and the passion behind wanting to actually build. So I do know there is a difference between a business and a brand. You can separate the two, but you can also have the two actually identify you. And that's exactly where I am as well. I just feel as if for every entrepreneur out there, it's very difficult to start at the beginning, but I always say that if you are able to sell it once, you're definitely more than capable with selling it again. Just find a niche and a way of convincing people that you are here and you are definitely here to stay, and let them actually enjoy your product. And once they do, find better ways and actually bettering it and keep going.
Let's take a quick pause. We'll come back on the other side. I want to know what are the most popular flowers for Mother's Day. But a quick pause, and then we come back with Uzipoze Butelez.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM. SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Apologies for that. I think it was actually my trigger happy fingers this time around. It wasn't our transmission. I know we had transmission issues earlier, but I think this time it was my trigger happy fingers. Zipozethu Buthelezi, founder of the Handsome Florist, is with us, and they found at Post House in Bryanston, right next to Gemelli. So that will be a landmark for you. If you are a Joburger, you'll know exactly where they are. The most popular flowers for Mother's Day, or the most popular floral mixes for this occasion?
Yes. So when it comes to Mother's Day flowers, we try and concentrate on soft pastel colors. So anything that is pink, purple, white. Then there's different types of roses that you can do, like roses. Different type of flowers, like roses, which usually are timeless. Carnation flowers are more of an official symbol for Mother's Day because it represents a mother's love, and they are long-lasting flowers. You do get tulips as well. They are more clean, modern, and great minimalistic arrangement flowers. Then you also have lilies such as St. Joseph lilies that open up and blossom in white. They also last long. And then we do have plants such as orchids. They're long-lasting and sophisticated as well.
Oh, well, listen, you had me at a rose, because a rose by any other name is still a rose. My friends think I'm boring, but it's my favorite flower of all time. For this Mother's Day, is there still availability for you guys? Can folks, because I know there are times of the year when florists are really busy. And given that it's just a few days to go before Mother's Day, can folks still come through, place some orders? Are you running a special perhaps? What can people look forward to?
We are extremely fortunate. We get our roses imported from Kenya. Kenyan roses and Ethiopian roses are the ones that last the longer because they are actually groomed in better weather conditions than in South Africa. So when they come here, it's slightly cooler, which means they last longer. We import them twice a week. We are taking orders availability in terms of people wanting to actually have flowers. We are running a special as well. We've got a voucher for 1,200 Rand, which actually has a floral bouquet from Handsome Florist. And right next door to us is a nail and beauty shop that's also offering our mothers and those loved ones a chance to actually get their nails and feet actually done as well and pampered. So we are running that voucher as well for Sunday. So you can come, grab a quick pickup bouquet, go next door, show the voucher as well, and get the lady that has taken care of you with her hands and feet pampered.
Oh, fantastic. Well, listen, I'm going to throw you this curveball, perhaps something to think about in the future. I don't know if it's something that you're doing currently. One of our listeners wanted to know if you make a delivery outside of the Gauteng region. Is that even feasible with flowers, or does it create a bit of a difficulty?
It definitely is feasible, but for us, unfortunately, we do not cover anything outside of the Gauteng region. We always want our flowers to be best suited and fresh, and they usually last about 12 hours outside of water before they start wilting. So if the temperature of the vehicle that actually is delivering them gets a little bit too hot, we never want the receiver to actually get our flowers in the condition that we never ship them out from the shop. So we usually just try and center around Johannesburg or Pretoria, anywhere around Gauteng. We do offer same-day deliveries as well, and we make sure that you get the best condition of our flowers the same way we actually receive them from Kenya.
Got you. That is, of course, Uziphozethu Buthelezi, founder of the Handsome Florist. You can find them on Instagram under the handle at handsome_florist. Thanks so much for the conversation, Ziphozethu, for our feature Made in SA. Hopefully, you'll be able to pop in and get some mom some flowers for this coming Mother's Day. In our last 5 minutes of the show, we're going to rewind back to the Madlanga Commission. And of course, we've seen Major General Hendrik Flynn, who testified over the last 2 days at the Commission, focusing, of course, this week on the multiple drug busts that were carried out by law enforcement agencies, and has testified that South Africa serves both as a destination for local drug distribution as well as a transit hub for international trafficking. And he's detailed the theft of over 540 kilograms of cocaine from Hawks premises in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's go back to some of that testimony.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
I think you made the comment that you understood why the LCRC was not called to the scene on the day in respect of this seizure we're talking about. And if I heard you correctly, you said they were trying to beat the criminals to the container. Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioner.
So there was a level of urgency in that case.
Indeed.
Does the same level of urgency, did the same level of urgency attach to the what I'll call the Port Shepstone seizure?
No, Commissioners.
Thank you.
But at least it sounds like at best you would say that no agency has been claimed for the absence of the LCRC in Port Shepstone.
Well, Commissioners, as explained by Colonel Jacob, he indicated that the scene became busy with the perhaps individuals arriving at the warehouse yard. But I also explained that that's a controlled environment already per se, as it's a warehouse. And it could have been easily contained where an outside perimeter and inside perimeter could have been deployed. And they could have decided how big that perimeter needed to be in order for them to properly deal with the scene. I also said that there was no need to transfer the crime scene or the exhibits seized from the crime scene to Isipingu before all the necessary investigations were done at the container.
All right, that is where we leave it for this afternoon. Of course, Ashraf is going to pick it up with the next Madlanga update at 5:45 this afternoon. From our end, it's where we wrap it up. We will see you again tomorrow for more conversation. Sorry, they are busy whispering in my ear. If you're seeing me on the streaming line, they're busy whispering in my ear. But that's where we leave it. We'll continue our conversations with you again tomorrow. We thank you so much for being a part of everything that we traversed today. The news is coming up at the top of the hour. And of course, the news this hour is brought to you by Momentum. And those with financial advisors have a better shot at generational wealth. All you have to do is to speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context and, of course, your unique needs.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
When I was commentating on him, I knew him as Elasto Lungu. He's Elasto Lungu Kapoweza.
No, thank you for having me on the show, discussing what has been happening with Kruger Energy Football Club. Yes.
Elasto, I wanted to also ask you about the fact that two of your rivals, or they were your rivals until recently, Keswick Stars and Milford, had very good cup runs. So the fact that their attention was distracted reaching the semi-final of the Nedbank Cup, did that help in a way? Because you could obviously focus purely on your league form.
Michael, it did. For once, I was very pleased when we did not progress further in the Nedbank, because the NFD, you've got to play your preliminary games so that you have the 8 teams that represent the NFD that is in the Nedbank proper. So we lost our preliminary game at home against Highbury, and for me, I was like, that is a blessing in disguise, because we could now focus on the league.
Top Sport on SAFM. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Thank you, Bridget, and the team on the top stories. A Tegwini municipality called on to establish a unit to tackle hijacked buildings, and Northern Cape residents urged to take extra precautions on the roads. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good afternoon. Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to establish a dedicated unit to tackle crime and address the issue of hijacked buildings in the Durban city centre. The party's provincial leader, Zwakele Mngwango, also participated in a march against illegal immigrants in Durban that drew hundreds of people. The march concluded on Mahatma Gandhi Road, formerly Point Road. This is an area often associated with high levels of crime and urban decay. It also includes a number of businesses, many of which are operated by foreign nationals. Mngwango elaborates.
We're saying within Metropolis, let's have a unit. They're going to work closely with Home Affairs and other stakeholders and SAPS to deal decisively with the issue of illegal immigration and drugs and human trafficking, because we know what is happening here in South Beach. So also, we are saying as Action SA, it's high time that leadership need to prevail in eThekwini. Because part of the problem is because leaders are not prepared to listen. These marches we see on a day-to-day basis is also results of anger from communities. As Action SA in council, as you said, we're in council. We recently, last council meeting, we had a motion. The motion was saying, let's have a stakeholder engagement arranged by the municipality, kind of a conference, to have some resolutions in terms of how we resolve these issues.
Hawks Head of Serious Organised Crime Investigations, Hendrik Flynn, has testified that the Madlanga Commission that suspended KwaZulu-Natal Hawks Head Lesija Sinona should have been subjected to a polygraph test. Flynn has since concluded his testimony at the Commission. It was in relation to the 541 kilograms of cocaine stolen at the Hawks premises in Port Shepstone.
In my opinion, Commissioner, indeed, he was supposed to be exposed to the process, as he played an active role in the Port Shepstone matter. It's not as if he was just the provincial head sitting at the distance. He was privy to the activities. He visited the Port Shepstone offices shortly after the seizure and took possession of the key. That's active participation.
The Patriotic Alliance says its support for the leader of the National Coloured Congress, Fadil Adams, is not based on race and culture but on truth. PA members joined NCC members for a prayer meeting for Adams in Mitchell's Plain. His mother was also present but too emotional to comment. Adams was arrested in Cape Town yesterday by members of the Political Killings Task Team and is facing allegations of fraud in defeating or obstructing the course of justice. This is in connection with the murder of ANC League leader Sindiso Magaga. The South African Weather Police Service in the Northern Cape is urging residents to take extra precautions on the roads as icy weather conditions set in across parts of the province. Police say snow and ice have already been reported along the N1 and N10 routes in the Pixley-Kasame district, posing a serious risk to motorists and households. Police spokesperson Cheryl Illas explains.
Motorists are urged to exercise extreme caution. In terms of road safety, reduce speed and increase following distance to allow for adequate reaction time in case of sudden stops or changing road conditions. Use headlights at all times to enhance visibility and ensure your vehicle is visible to others. Avoid puddles and standing water which may conceal potholes. Be cautious of large vehicles that may reduce your visibility due to spray. In terms of home safety, ensure that all fires in fireplaces are extinguished and heaters are switched off before going to bed. Never sleep with burning candles.
The World Health Organization says 3 more people have been evacuated from the cruise ship at the center of a deadly hantavirus outbreak. The infected passengers are being taken to the Netherlands for medical care, where the ship and its operators are registered. At least 7 suspected cases have been identified and 3 people have died. Spain has given the ship permission to dock in the Canary Islands, but the island's president Fernando Clavillo says he won't allow it.
We also wonder why, if it is anchored in a Cape Verde port, why does it have to be moved to the Canary Islands, a 3-day voyage away, when the condition of the passengers is unknown? In other words, what technical criteria led to the change of this decision?
Recapping the top story, Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to establish a dedicated unit to tackle crime and address the issue of hijacked buildings in the Durban city centre. I'm Ondilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 3:30.
And a reminder that Momentum is part of the Momentum Group Limited, an authorised FSP and registered credit provider.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorised financial services and registered credit provider.
In sports, the South Sundowns ready for tough clash against Chiefs. Mthembu praises the team's strong effort to wrap up 2026 TNL first leg, and Naidu hails rising standards at Africa Championships. More details at 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
It's certainly one of those days. Fadil Adams arriving at a police station. On the one hand, some of the schools in the Cape closed because of atrocious weather, really. We'll chat to Boniface Mwangi, an award-winning Kenyan photojournalist, and we'll also recap day 2 of the NHR legal challenge. And that's not all, of course. There's so much more. This is the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. As always, you can connect live. WhatsApping us, we'll bank your voice note 0614 104 107, 30 seconds please. To call in live when we open the lines, 0886 000 2032. First things first, Tembisa residents protesting against, well, what they call unsafe goods in spaza shops. We'll cover that next.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental dispute, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When Avukile was diagnosed with blood cancer, his only hope was a stem cell transplant from a matching donor. Thankfully, a perfect match was found, and Avukile received the transplant that saved his life. But thousands of patients in South Africa are still waiting to find their match. Together, we can give more patients like Avukile a second chance at life. Visit dkmsafrica.org.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
This May, SAFM invites you to be exposed and engaged in a different conversation. Not the Africa you think you know, but the Africa that surrounds you. What does it mean to be African today? In our politics, in our economies, in our cross-border movements, in our rich cultures, in our evolving identities. Every day we traverse this continent. 54 countries, 54 unique stories, one shared future. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, and right here at home. Because South Africa is not separate from Africa. It is a vital part of it. SAFM Africa Month. Conversations, context, connection. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, first things first, let's talk about what's happening in Tembisa. Now, you, on the other hand, can reflect on any issue for you, that what you think moves the National Pulse, right? So we're going to chat. In fact, we're going to cross over to Tembisa just now. But before we do that, let me just remind you, there's some bizarre things I've picked up on. I mean, have you followed the story of Gary Player? Have you seen that story? Gary Player, the South African golfer, the legendary golfer. He was with Donald Trump. in the White House, as you would expect him to be when you're with your friends, and they were with lots of young people, and he said some of the most interesting, when I say interesting, maybe that's an understatement, bizarre things, really. Obviously, he's a friend of Donald Trump, so we know that part, okay? But it's a question of what he said. And I thought what he said was very, very interesting indeed. In fact, I'll tell you about that just now, okay? And you must remind me if I forget about it. I will get to that now. But let's talk about Tembisa firstly. Tembisa residents protesting against unsafe goods. What's the story? Luyanda Danka, SABC News reporter covering that story. Luyanda, thank you for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, tell us what's happened.
So today, residents were protesting, Ashraf. It was a really terrible situation. Residents are really unhappy in Tembisa. They were protesting against the illegal foreigners who are opening shops there, complaining that they are selling products that are expired. Ashraf, you'd understand that in South Africa we've got a problem of illegal foreigners. Now, these spaza shops, these illegal foreigners that are owning spaza shop here, the residents are actually accusing them of selling illegal goods, of selling products that are not in good conditions. We spoke with some of the residents, Ashraf, who told us that the situation is really terrible. So they were busy moving around Tembisa, closing shops that were opened. Actually, it's not only shops, Ashraf, it's also the vendors, because you understand that it's not only South Africans who are street vendors, also the foreign nationals are also selling there on the street. So they were saying, no guys, please stop doing this thing, you must pack and go. They are really wanting them to actually leave. So Ashraf, we also spoke with other residents who explained that this does not only, or it's not only limited to food that is being sold at the spaza shop, but they are also selling drugs, which is causing a really problem, because the community is saying it's really affecting their children, Ashraf.
But I mean, let's be clear. You know, I'm looking at the issue of drugs, then the issues of the foreign nationals, and the issues of food. What is the primary focus of the march? Because the problem with the marches and protests, when you do it on multiple levels, it gets all very, very confusing in terms of what are they asking for.
Yeah.
So what's the primary thrust of their protest?
The primary focus there, it was about the illegal foreigners who are actually selling expired food to the community. That was the primary focus of this march. But residents also revealed that it's not only food, but it's also drugs. They are not only selling food or expired food to their children or to them as a community, but they are also selling drugs. But the primary focus, it was about food that is being sold there on the spaza shop. So the community is demanding a permanent shutdown.
Okay, can you tell us more in terms of, I mean, one thing is the food is expired, but, you know, over what period, how long past the expiry date? And, I mean, do you know, determine how unsafe those expired foods are?
At this moment, Ashraf, they did not specify or give us some details, some sort of evidence, like, for instance, pictures in terms of this is the expiry date, this food expired on this date. So we did not get that information. But what I can tell you, Ashraf, is that community here in Tembisa is really unhappy. They are angry, and they are saying it's not a one-day event. They are planning to also come back tomorrow.
Okay. What happens? Has there been a response? So in terms of their protests, do I take it they congregated around one specific store or many stores?
They were targeting almost all the stores around this area, Ashraf, because I remember we were walking around with them, following them, closing shops. Other shops were already closed, but there were those shops there and there who were still open. So they were saying, no, they must close because the product that are sold there actually expired. So Also, in terms of response, there were police visibility. We've seen law enforcement, and the law enforcement was actually enforcing the law and maybe asking them to actually be in one place, because when there are protests, there are those who maybe like to loot as well. So the law enforcement agencies were there to actually enforce law, to give orders that people must march peaceful, you see, something like that.
Okay. Were you able to confirm that the allegations are true? That means at some of these stores or vendors that in fact they were selling, goods where they canned foods that were actually past their expired date.
Yes, we did as the SABC, because we wanted to actually balance our story, Ashraf. We spoke with a few shop owners there who actually dismiss the allegations that not all of us are selling these expired goods. They also showed some of the team. So, Ashraf, it's that kind of story that we were following today. There is response from the shop owners saying that it's not true. The law enforcement must come and they will actually see.
Okay. Just the last thing, has there been any reaction from the store owners? And again, some could be foreign store owners, foreign nationals, others not. But has there been reaction from them to defend their position?
Yeah, some of them, they do not want to appear on camera. Even if we say, no, it's fine, we won't show your face, we want to do it for radio, they don't want to actually raise their voice. So we did spoke with some of the shop owners, but they are not willing to actually give more information, Ashraf.
And just to be clear again, so the allegation is that these people are selling expired goods, number one. But also the allegation is that these are illegal foreigners, right? For example, are we able to determine that as well? Because, it's very difficult to prove someone's undocumented unless you actually go and check them out. How would they know that?
It's quite true, Ashraf, because it's not only foreign nationals who are owning shops here. There are also South Africans who are shop owners who were also scared that their shops might get attacked. So they were also closing their shops. But in terms of verification, I didn't see any form of verification paperwork. So it was just a faceless march, as they described it, as a faceless march. There was no organizer, there was no some sort of leaders. So it was just community members. That is why it was some kind difficult to actually see who is in charge, who is doing the verification process.
Lastly, even if it's off camera, were any of these foreign nationals, were they fearful of what's been unfolding?
Yeah. They are very fearful. I saw some of them closing their shops immediately, some of them running away. So there are those who are brave, who said, no, they are firm that they are not selling expired products, but also not willing to actually talk to the media.
Okay. That's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your time, Luyanda Danka, SABC News reporter, covering the story of protests against owners of spaza shops in Tembisa. And the claim is that the goods that they're selling are unsafe because they are beyond the expiry date. There's the double protest that many of these people are undocumented or illegal foreigners. That's coming through as well. And the third one is they're selling drugs as well. So there's a triple whammy around that issue. You may be from Tembisa. If that's the case, hey, be the citizen's reporter. I want to hear your story. So you've been there. What has happened in your community? What can you tell us around these allegations? Have you joined the protests? Are you one of the store owners? How do you respond when people accuse you of selling expired goods? In fact, do you do so? If that were the case, I'd like to know. You can call in live 086 000 2032. In the meantime, there's developments regarding school, no school in parts of the Western Cape. We'll talk about that next.
Outsurance can't improve your karaoke skills, but they could improve the car insurance premium you currently pay. SMS out to 30754. Get a quote today, and if OutSurance can't save you money on your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get a quote and get savings or cash. Either way, you win. SMS out to 30754. Want all the bells and whistles of car insurance at a great price? It's time to switch to OutSurance. Not only could they save you some big bucks, you'll also get the legendary out bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. So, are you ready to switch and save? Don't miss out. SMS right now to make sure you always get something out. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. OutSurance. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Mavis, I wonder if I should sell my car. I'm not sure where to go.
Wanna sell your car, but don't know what to do. You don't have to go far, we come to you. If you're rolling on a 1.5 or a Lacquer 2.2, doesn't matter what you drive, we buy cars once you.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, let's get reaction first. Luba Balo in Gugulethu. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you doing,
I'm
sir?
good indeed. Thanks for calling in. Right, what's your point?
Yes, sir. My point is basically how this immigration issue is really affecting the young people in this country. I'll make an example. I remember when I was in my early 20s, back in the early 2004, I used to change jobs in the retail and the hospitality industry. You know, every season, like for example, in December, I used to work at the V&A Hotel, the Table Bay Hotel there. You know, we were young people and we were all South African. But right now, if I tell my young cousins that I used to get jobs every holiday, school holidays, they think that I'm talking a fantasy, because those jobs that were preserved for young South Africans are now being occupied by 40-year-old Zimbabweans. If you go to a V&A waterfront restaurant, you're going to be served by a 30-year-old or 40-year-old Zimbabwean guy. He's very nice, very professional, but he's not young South African. And that's the issue we have now.
But why is that a big? Tell me, why is that a big concern? Because what I'm saying, unless there's proof that they are not hiring South Africans, you know what I mean, absolute proof that there's a systemic plan, we will not hire South Africans, isn't that very arbitrary?
It is, definitely. For example, right now, I know young guys who came back from initiation school in December. They're in their early 20s. They can't find a job. They can't do or replicate what I was doing when I was in my early 20s. They can't just go to, for example, to any restaurant in the V&A, to any hotel in the whole seaboard, the whole Atlantic seaboard. There's lots of hotels there. And it's so sad that young people from colored communities, black communities in Cape Town cannot find a job in the whole Atlantic seaboard. But when you go there, you get served by a very friendly guy from Malawi, Zimbabwe. You know, he's very older, very mature. You know, he looks like a family guy. But what about our young people? What about the young people in Mitchell's Plain who just came out from matric, who didn't do very good in the exams, but you know, they can still do work in the retail space, hospitality space. You know, all of those spaces that were like what I'm saying. I was getting jobs frequently.
Okay, I think you've made your point. I hear you, right? Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I need to move on, unfortunately, but I think you've made your point. Thanks for that. I wonder how widespread is that? Because, you know, what are the numbers of foreign nationals being employed in South Africa? Someone said it's like 2-3%. You know, when one thinks about 50-60%, that's not the case. Really, it's not the case. So in this case here, do you have like absolute proof that there's a systemic campaign not to hire local South African nationals? Let's talk about that too. Okay, we stay in the Western Cape right after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get on to issues of schooling, but not the type of issues we'll normally talk about, because it's a case of school, no school. Carrie Mochlin is the spokesperson to David Mayneer, the Western Cape Ministry of Education, right? And we're talking about certain areas of schools in certain areas being closed. Carrie, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
It's my pleasure.
Right. So, listen, when we were lighties, I must tell you, the dream was you just wish there's no school. That's the dream. And you pray for those days. So, which schools are happy at the moment and which ones are not?
Well, I think there are a lot of learners who are happy today. I don't know if the parents are as happy because they sometimes have to entertain their kids at home. But it's actually about 89,000 learners just in one district of the Western Cape. That's the Eden and Central Karoo Education District. And unfortunately, I know we can make light of the topic, but obviously there's a very severe storm in progress in that area. And as a result, we took the decision to close schools today and tomorrow just because of the severity of the weather warnings that we were getting from provincial disaster management.
How severe is it? Give us a sense so we understand it.
Well, it's a level 8 storm, and we don't have these very often. And you must understand that our default position is to keep schools open because we know that schooling is important and kids aren't doing nothing at school all day. They're working really hard, and there's a lot of work that has to be covered. So we only do this in a case of very severe weather warnings, and a lot of data was processed by the Weather Service, by the Provincial Disaster Management Centre, and we go on their guidance. So we don't sort of pick and choose based on whether there are calls for closure or not. It is very much on the data that's available to us. And in this case, I think sadly we have been proved correct. There's been a lot of damage that we've seen to schools already. We are also aware, I've seen the news report that someone has actually passed away in Knysna. So it is a very serious storm.
Sure, man. How and this at the moment is restricted to those areas you refer to, Eden and Central Karoo District. What about the rest of the Western Cape? And I know that the Eastern Cape is not your domain, but it borders that areas as well, right? Because there's huge problems there too.
So we closed schools in about 5 circuits. That's in the George and Knysna set of circuits, Claytonburg Bay area, and then sort of north of that towards Oudtshoorn, because there's a lot of learners who travel on learner transport in rural areas especially. So you absolutely do not want them to have to be on the roads when there's a lot of flash flooding. Of course, if there are schools in other areas that need to close, we pick the areas with the most severe weather warning based on the data. If there are schools in other areas that need to close, there is a standard procedure for schools to request closure. That applies to closure for everything. It can be due to any kind of emergency incident at a school, and certainly those schools will follow that procedure if required. But at the moment, the closures that we have enforced are for those 5 circuits only.
Okay. And at the moment, it's for 2 days, which does not include Friday. The logic for most people is like, no, man, you can't start school on a Friday. And you know that. But I mean, the reality, will there be a call made on that depending on the weather too?
Well, look, we are constantly monitoring it. In terms of what the data and information that we've been presented and the guidance that we've been presented, they do expect that we'll be able to have those schools open on Friday, but naturally we will make that call closer to the time. Of course, making it soon enough that parents do have enough time to make arrangements, that schools do have time to communicate. And also over the next sort of 24 hours or so, we will only start to get in most of the damage reports that we need. Because obviously at the moment we don't want our circuit managers and our principals driving around going to look at whether there's damage to their schools. So as that the weather conditions improve and we can get a better sense of if there are any schools that are going to have to stay closed longer, we'll be able to make those decisions as that information comes in.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time, Kerry Moughlan, the spokesperson, Western Cape Ministry of Education spokesperson. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse. There's further comments from you. By the way, if you're in that region, the Karoo region, Central Karoo District, and then, southern, in this case, southern Western Cape, Plettenberg Bay, George areas as well. And you've seen severe flooding and how it's affected not just schooling, but every other aspect of your day-to-day lives. Well, what about sharing your thoughts on that too? Here's one very topical regarding Tembisa.
Sure, Ashraf. So are these guys documented? Are your journalists asking the right questions? Are these guys documented? Can they show proof of documents? And where are they buying their rotten food or whatever food that they sell in their shop? Where is it made? Where are they getting that food? What is the food council or whoever is in charge of food that comes into South Africa? They're regulating and checking it. We need to look into them too.
Well, I mean, I hear that. Look, the one part that I would be uncomfortable with, right? Listen, if someone is undocumented, I mean, the food part, I hear you, and I think we've discussed it. You know, if it's expired, it's a complete no, right? On the issue of being undocumented, you know, I don't know if it's for people, and I've seen this, for people to go and ask people, you know, person to person, to say, and I want to be derogatory, to like, show me your pass, essentially. That's what happened in apartheid South Africa. It's really not your responsibility. It has to be the police who's got to look into people who may be seen as undocumented. We can't go around to every person we meet and show me your pass, show me your documents, or else. And that's the culture you don't really want to be a part of, notwithstanding the point that undocumented foreign nationals and how it's been allowed to just grow is a huge cause for concern in our country. 3:30, here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Eastern Cape Transport Department says snowfall continues to affect high-lying parts of the province, particularly around Middelburg and the Lutzburg Pass, creating hazardous driving conditions. Action SA in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to establish a dedicated unit to tackle crime and address the issue of hijacked buildings in the Durban city centre. And America news website Axios is reporting that the White House believed it was getting close to an agreement with Iran that would end the war and set a framework for more detailed nuclear negotiations. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Okay, Chimmy, listen, for football fans, what are they going to do tonight? It's Bayern Munich versus Paris Saint-Germain. Orlando Pirates versus Mamelodi Sundowns. Kaizer Chiefs versus Mamelodi Sundowns. What are they going to do? You tell me.
I think, local fans are definitely going to be keeping a close eye on that Betway Premiership title race. And I heard a lot of people saying, today we are friends of Kaizer Chiefs. But a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf.
Can I just tell you, I'm wearing black. You may want to describe it. Just describe it to the audience.
So you're wearing black and you're wearing a gold. Is this gold?
Well,
gold brown jacket. So are you telling us that you are supporting Chiefs tonight?
Well, someone may think of it as Kaizer Chiefs. So let me keep quiet.
Well, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that careful management of his players' workload will be crucial as the Betway Premiership title race enters its decisive phase this month. The Brazilians host Kaizer Chiefs at Loftus Versfeld Stadium after a demanding stretch of 7 matches in 21 days, and they know that victory over Amakosi would move them one step closer to retaining the crown. Cardoso stressed the repercussion had become a key part of Sundowns recuperation has become a key part of Sundowns preparations as they navigate a congested fixture schedule during the closing stages of the campaign.
The objective is the same. The way we're going to work through, there's not a lot of time. For sure, you may imagine that for us, the recovery process is the most important. They didn't play for a long time. So since Pirates, I think they don't play. What means that they come with full energy, and we will be also with full energy for sure. That's good match ahead. Let's go for it.
Well, Orlando Pirates coach Abdeslam Moadu believes that the Betway Premiership title race could go down to the final day after his side closed the gap on leaders Sundowns with that 2-0 win over Stellenbosch in Cape Town. Pirates now face Magezi on Saturday after finishing against Durban City and Orbit College, knowing that Sundowns will retain the crown if they win all the remaining fixtures. As things stand today on the log, Pirates are just 2 points behind Sundowns.
How many games to go?
I think 3.
But both have 3?
Yeah.
Including today?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if Sundowns trip, if the team in gold, like this Chiefs top are wearing, if they even draw with Sundowns, I mean, that would have a huge impact on the league.
Of course. And I mean, I think for me, if Sundowns trips today and somehow Pirates catches up, it will make it to be very interesting. I wanted to go to the last day. Let it go down to the wire. Elsewhere, FIFA President Gianni Infantino has defended the steep rise in World Cup ticket prices, insisting the organization is obliged to apply U.S. market laws that permit resale at vastly inflated rates. He argued that demand for the 2026 tournament, which has already generated over 500 million ticket requests, justifies higher face value prices, with the final tickets now reaching $11,000. That's over 180,000 rands. It's compared to $1,600, which is around 26,000 rands in Qatar 4 years ago. Infantino added that 25% of the group stage tickets remain under $300, which is 4,000 rand, aligning with the U.S. entertainment market rates. Don't forget, SABC has you covered with regards to the FIFA World Cup, and SABC 3 is going to be your official home for the World Cup. In terms of netball, KwaZulu-Natal Kingdom Queens coach Precious Mthembu says that she is pleased with her side's consistency. This is after finishing second in the opening leg of the 2026 Telkom Netball League. The Queens collected 11 points from 5 wins, just 3 behind leaders Western Cape Tornadoes, firmly positioning themselves as title contenders.
I think the girls are really encouraged by how the first leg has unfolded. Finishing second with 5 wins, it shows and it does reflect not just consistency but also commitment and work ethic. I'm aware that the girls haven't really reached their full potential, and they also know that as yet. There are just a few areas we need to tighten up, especially on crucial moments. That is, I would say, maybe discipline and under pressure, especially. Going into the second leg, the focus is really just cleaning up on errors, building a really strong cohesion, and being in sync is something that we speak about in the team, building team meetings and things like that. And then obviously the momentum we have created so far, I think the girls have really put up their hand in doing so well in this league. And I think, it's a good confident booster for them to do well again in second leg.
In terms of swimming, Africa Aquatics Secretary General Jace Naidoo has praised the remarkable growth in performance levels at the 2026 Africa Swimming Championships in Algeria. Naidoo highlighted the increasing depth of talent across junior and senior categories, with several nations fielding swimmers who have competed at world level. He singled out South Africa's Matthew Catwell for an exceptional 800-meter freestyle victory over rivals from Egypt and Algeria. And Naidoo says that the talent on display bodes well for Africa's prospects at the Youth Olympic Games in Senegal later this year, and the World Short Course Championships in Beijing in December. Ashraf, do you know that there's a premium paddle tournament that is coming to Pretoria soon?
I'm very aware of it.
Of course you are.
I am, yes.
But I'm going to tell our listeners a bit more about it later.
Well, I'd love to know more about it. Yeah, I think the launch was yesterday or the day before, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, just to tell you, I mean, you can tell us more later, but Premium Paddle 1 and Premium Paddle 2. Number 1 is the leading one in the world. This is Premium Paddle 2. So it's like the second division, but we'll get there.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just 1 rand. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
EFC is live this Thursday. 2 athletes at the height of their powers fight for more than victory. They fight for the fight itself. Zakir Badat, 8 wins, all finishes. Zico Makangela, 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Champion and former champion collide in Africa's biggest welterweight championship fight. EFC 133, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's get further comments from you. There's lots to talk about. We're going to then talk to a fascinating person with a great story around, photojournalism and arts to effectively register protests in terms of injustice in the world, specifically in Kenya, right? But to get to that, there's some voice notes we're going to play, a lot around the protests, right?
Good afternoon. So PA is supporting Fadil Adams. That's not a problem, What is the issue is for them to lie and say they're not supporting because it's colored. If that's the case, why didn't they support Julius Malema? If what they're saying is true. There's nothing wrong with supporting because it's colored. They must just be honest about it, But to lie, it's because they're lying.
Okay, that's one. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf Mbongo Sundisa Mbuyisa here. Mr. Ashraf, why government is not limiting child grant to 3 maximum?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah. This is Matu speaking. The problem with the foreigner that we have in our country, the problem is the private sector and the government. In the government, we've got people who don't care, but they're just looking into their own pockets. In the private sector, they're looking for cheap labor in order for them not to pay tax or UIF. That's the situation that we are facing. The legal foreigners, people of our neighboring countries, I wish the president of all these countries that we are complaining about, why they can sit down instead of blaming South Africa that South African are xenophobic, while we try to compact our country to be where it's supposed to be, to take their people back home and making sure that they keep their people at their home. When they come here for the right reasons. Not many are here for wrong reasons.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, that's listen. What we want to do is sort of up the activisms. People who are activists in their own spaces, whatever they do, we must talk about it. So this is the case, really, for me, following this story of Boniface Ngwangi, who's an award-winning Kenyan photojournalist with a fascinating story. So Boniface, appreciate you joining us here on the National Pulse.
I thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, you've done lots of things. You're a photojournalist, but significantly for me is, how you've utilized that platform and connected that to arts to capture history and injustice, particularly in Kenya. Tell me about that.
So my work is to document and expose injustices, and my most famous work was the election violence in Kenya about 15 years ago, where I covered the election violence and used the pictures to travel the entire country, use them as a tool for reconciliation, for healing, and for bringing communities together.
Okay. And in terms of doing that, what impact has it made? Because, at some stage you're the artist, you're the photojournalist, and at some stage you then start focusing on real serious issues. How did your country, the people in your country, how did they respond to that?
They were well received. So when there was violence in my country, most Kenyans did not see the violence. The TV stations were down. There was a lot of censorship. So taking the images to the community where I took the pictures, another place was able to start open conversations about tribal politics, ethnic violence, and the killings that actually happened. Because basically, as a photographer, you document, then you take your work to a gallery, or you do an exhibition in a museum. But this was actually, it was called Picha Mtaani, which means street exhibitions. And I took the pictures to the community so people could see the violence firsthand, they could interact with the pictures firsthand, and also start have open dialogue about the effects of tribal and ethnic politics.
Okay, so let's fast forward now to yesterday, where yourself and a group of other journalists launched a significant exhibition. Tell me about that.
So a couple of young photographers covered the Gen Z protests in Kenya. That was in 2024 and 2025. And they're coming together to showcase this work as a collective, to get people to like a piece of archiving history and getting people to see themselves during that particular moment. Normally when you have a big breaking story, there's only 1 or 2 pictures in the newspaper, then people move on. But now they're trying to create a permanent digital museum where you can go and interact with those pictures. So it was a beautiful ceremony. a beautiful exhibition and a good way actually to ensure people don't forget what has happened in the past.
Has that changed society?
Yeah, photography changed society. I think there's a lot of images that have actually changed the course of history. I think for South Africa, the Sharpeville massacre in 1976, I believe. And so when images are put out there and people get to see them, they change how people behave and how they interact even with their politicians, with the policies, and even with the government.
Which does suggest that, and every moment of every day, something or the other is happening in the world. But it is, whether it's photography or whether it's videography, the ability in today's world to capture that on camera in many ways makes the big difference in terms of how that entire issue is actually seen by the world, isn't it? And how the world responds. I'm looking back to the, what was it called? The Vietnam napalm bombing, I think it was,
yeah,
right?
The photo.
And that story, I mean, it stayed with me like now, as it does right now. So it just shows you the power. It's transformative, right?
It is actually, and also you can actually use photography for propaganda. If you look at the genocide that is going on in Palestine, and you look at what Israel has been able to do, is use the images of the Holocaust that happened over 80 years ago to propagate the superiority and to say we're defending ourselves. So it can go either way. People can use images for good, or they can use it as a tool for propaganda to downplay another community or another race or another religion. So it can go either way.
Yeah, I think point made there, right? But I mean, by and large, you have a view on the importance of archiving material, right? Tell me more about that.
It's very important to do that, because when you fail to do so, people who come after, for example, the end of apartheid in South Africa, they can never know what happened. People don't know about the Makahana massacre, the one that they killed the miners. So there's an importance of making sure that when a particular event happens in history, that whatever happens is documented and displayed in many places. You want the person working in the public transport vehicles, people working in the markets are able to see those images, because newspapers and other forms, digital archives, are very elitist. So we must find a way to ensure that the stories we're telling, or the stories that we've actually documented, are no longer in the museums, but in the communities, in the Soweto, in the townships, where people can see them and interact with them.
Okay. What then about, one thing is archiving, right? But then the issues that you've raised around injustice, right? But overall, with those issues, how easy is it for the world to see it? Meaning, archiving is one thing, going to exhibitions is another. The one thing about mainstream media, you would think it's seen in big numbers in one go. How difficult is it for, say, someone like yourself and others to be able to ensure that your work is shared to a larger audience?
So you have to find a way to reach where young people are. So that means that if you have to find a way to package your work, either on TikTok or Instagram, because your legacy media is not where the young people are. So there must be another way to find ways to make your work reaches those people. But there must be also intentionality of why you're doing it. So for a newspaper, they want to do the news and move on. For someone like me who's trying to use images to change a community and to transform society, I must first go looking for my audience and show them what I want them to see. So it's like marketing your work to the people who not basically see your work.
Yeah. And to go back, I mean, the organization, the collective Power 254, I mean, that's the one you started over 20 years ago, right? Does it still exist, and where is its position right now?
So it's a creative space in Nairobi where they use art for social change. So they find issues of the day, and like if it's corruption, injustice, they use graffiti, they use music, they use poetry, they use dance, they make music videos about those issues, because you must use pop culture to reach the young people, the Gen Z. They don't read as much, and they don't go to museums as much. So you must find a way or a language to package the message in a way they can interact with it without leaving their comfort space, which is TikTok or Instagram.
When you say that, I mean, are you saying you let's say even yourself and others, right? Would you now be able to create content, activist content, right, that is meant to be shared, meant to trend? And if so, tell me how you do so.
No, you have to actually. You have to find a way. For example, it could be like if you go on TikTok, there's a trending song or music, and you start the beat with that song for like maybe 30 seconds or maybe 5 seconds. Then you go to your subject. I'll give a quick example. There's been an issue about voter registration in this country, and then people began a movement called I'm Game, Nikokadi, I'm Game, and that trend has gone on to become the reason over 3 million young Kenyans have registered to vote. So you must find people where they're at. If they're in church, go to church, speak their language. And I think Nelson Mandela said that if you speak a man's language, you speak to their heart. And so basically you need to find the heart of young people and find the medium they listen to or they use to express themselves and reach them at that particular place.
I think it's very important when you speak the language of the people that you actually want to engage with, right? Well, thank you for your time. Feel free to share some of your content on our platforms, SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok. We'll certainly gladly share that. Instagram too. We'd love people to see your work. It sounds fascinating indeed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll do that. Thank you so
are.
much.
Boniface Mwangi, award-winning Kenyan photojournalist. That should get you really thinking. Interesting in terms of his points about this new ways of doing activism. Well, let's talk about activism around the NHI. We'll do that next.
No one gets fit overnight. It takes discipline, and your money is no different. A Nedbank 32-day notice account helps you build financial strength with up to 7.3% interest and zero maintenance fees. The higher the deposit, the higher the return. Invest in under 2 minutes on the Money app and get money fit with Nedbank. For more information, go to nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank, we're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
So, right, if you weren't, and I know many people were trying today, if you weren't lucky enough to snatch up a 12 Rand flight from Fly Safair today, no worries. The dash lives on. Fly Safair has now made all their domestic flights 30% off for travel right up until the 27th of March 2027. You read that right, okay? I didn't read 1 month out. It's next year, 27th of March 2027. There's public holidays, school holidays, special occasions sorted. Head to flysafair.co.za, pick your Lekker local spot and get a dashing 30% off flights. Sale ends at midnight. So midnight? Tonight, that is? You'd better dash now to grab this great deal. T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Well, yesterday we touched on the issue of the NHI legal challenge. Let me remind you, the Constitutional Court has been hearing arguments against the contentious National Health Insurance Act. On the first day of proceedings yesterday, the Board of Healthcare Funders argued that Parliament failed to meet its constitutional obligation to facilitate meaningful public consultation. Now, the bill, as you know, was passed by the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in 2023. So what happened today? Nosipho Khadebe, as always, has been covering that story. Thank you for joining us, Nosipho. Hi.
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Thank you. What's happened today?
So today we heard from the Western Cape government their argument, which is similar to that of the BHF, although they are separate applications. They're all being heard in the next or during this 3-day sitting at the Constitutional Court. And essentially, what the Western Cape government's argument is that it is saying that there were no hearings conducted in Gauteng because there's no evidence of this at the NCOP through the Select Committee. And then the other part of that argument is that there was no effective public participation in the Western Cape. and that was because there was an abridged or limited timetable for no good reason, they say, even though they're the only province that had actually went through the legislation and clause by clause had come up with suggestions. And so, therefore, the outcomes of the Western Cape were not put before the NCOP, and then therefore not being able to engage with the legislation. We also heard from the judge or the justices then who probed the Western Cape government on this because they had asked, of course, where if we haven't heard, if there's no evidence then of what happened in Gauteng, how would this impact, of course, then the outcomes then of the National Health Insurance Act? And then also just, what in terms of the remedy where they're looking for. But the Western Cape government essentially says, what the speaker says, saying that it would be a dangerous precedent if the province were allowed to bring about a delay in this manner, which they refute. They say that the question rather is that whether the NCOP did its work reasonably, and if so, the select committee did its work then in a manner that was appropriate. And so they want the court then to look, or they're asking from the court for the full NCOP process to be repeated, and then also no order for costs then, because it is between the spheres of government. So essentially they want the public participation process repeated, which is a similar argument that the BHF has made.
Which, if that's the case, who knows where that will go, right? What happens next?
So, of course, we are going to hear the responses. We have been hearing responses then from the various parties. We heard the response from the department as well as Parliament, who both refuted then the submissions that were made by the Western Cape government. In terms of the department says, the work of the National Assembly, that was done accordingly, and it's not, you cannot say it was unreasonable for how the process was, because part of the argument of the Western Cape was that why was this process rushed for it to be done before Parliament's end of term in 2023? Why was there a rush when Parliament could have still, brought this back to the table in 2024? And so the department says, the work that it did was reasonable given the circumstances and the nature of the legislation. And also we heard the same coming then from the Parliament as well as the department. So they, of course, submit then that refute rather, what the Western Cape government made as submissions. But we'll continue to hear arguments. Yesterday we did get through a lot of the arguments and the rebuttals quite quickly, and we are expecting the same today. And then that would mean, because court is still in session, we might see the court come to an end today or possibly early tomorrow. So it looks like the process is running on time, or actually just ahead of time in terms of the arguments then before the Constitutional Court.
Okay, and that's where we'll leave it. Nosipho Khadebe, I appreciate your time, SABC reporter, covering the NHI legal challenge in court. And as you know, it's going to go on all throughout this week.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
And by the way, if I put this to you on a very personal level, when you hear us talking about, government hospitals right now, and then you're looking at medical cover, medical insurance, and then you're looking at NHI or National Health Insurance, what does that do for you? What are you thinking right now when you're having these conversations with your family about ensuring you have the best medical care at the cheapest possible prices? What type of conversations are you having about this?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. We're speaking to Parks. Ashraf, go to Zimbabwe, go to Mozambique, go to Swaziland, go to Eswatini. You always have to carry a proof, your passport. You have to carry it always. And at times, you don't even know whether those people are police. Each and every spot, if you don't have it, you have to pay. I'm not saying we should do the same thing, but they should show some proof. And So it's another issue because our law enforcement are listening to them. That's why you see this hype of protesters, you know what I mean? But I don't see anything wrong because we will be replicating the same thing that they are doing to us when we are at their countries. So it's a matter of ensuring that you abide by the law of the countries.
Okay, but I mean,
thank you.
All right, got that. Is that passports when they are on holiday, passports when they're living there? Do you really want that? Even if other countries are doing the same, where they check you out all the time? Musa, what's your thoughts? Hi, Musa.
Hi, Ashraf. So Ashraf, I just wanted to express my disappointment, when you ask one of your callers, for proof that there is a systematic thing to exclude South Africans from the job market. I was listening to him, and I fully agree with him. I too used to work during holidays. My first job was at KFC. When I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so